an 8-6 ball game.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Kiermaier heading back to the warning track. He's back on the wall, jumps up, and did he get it? Yes, he did.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
For a second Cowboy victory.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Well, good afternoon on Sikkim 365 Radio. Radio also streaming not just the audio, but also the video. Craig Smoke to my right, Paul Catalina to my left. And a couple of youngins, Paul, in the studio yet again.
Yep, we got Drake and Armstrong. Obviously Armstrong every day, but
Armstrong's here. Yep.
Drake in his usual Wednesday rotation.
And I brought them. I brought them a treat today. So far, Armstrong, have you been able to gnaw into what I brought you?
Oh yes, it's fantastic.
It's a double all the way.
Yeah.
From Double R.
Yes.
Taking care of the young kids.
Yes.
And I
usually it's wings, but today it was a nice
just something
change.
different. I thought I'd take care of you. You guys have been pretty good. I guess we'll keep you for another day. All right, so Florida and the game with LSU canceled. They were suspending football operations. That game is now canceled. Craig, you looked at what Adam Rittenberg and other – man, it's almost as if they just wrote the book on what happened to Baylor after a road trip.
Yeah, he came out today, and I don't think this comes as any surprise because of what was being reported yesterday out of Gainesville. But Florida AD Scott Strickland, due to a significant number of COVID cases, we're unfortunately announcing the postponement of the Florida LSU game scheduled for Saturday. He went on to say that there are 18 current positive tests among scholarship players, 3 positive tests among walk-ons, and when factoring in contact tracing, Florida has less than 50 scholarship players available right now. So eerily similar to Baylor. Strickland also said everyone who's tested positive, including coaches and staff, are either asymptomatic or experiencing milder symptoms. So that's a little bit different because we know Baylor's got a large number, 29 that are symptomatic. And he went on to say, that they understand the virus can sneak up. They don't know the origin, but they think the trip to Texas A&M sparked it. And apparently there were some who traveled that now say they had allergy-like symptoms last week but did not report them. So they paused team activities, and the travel situation is something they are going to review. And, yeah, that's very similar to what Baylor went through last week.
The thing that's different, and I said this to Adam Rittenberg because I did trade a text or two. I said, first of all, great job on the story. And Strickland, of course, has been trying to tell everybody what's going on. And Florida initially tried to debunk the student newspaper, and they stood firm. Paul, the difference in what Craig was saying is that I don't remember Mac other than saying that they might have had a couple of false negatives, and I don't know if those people were showing symptoms or not, whoever they were, but this is like people that knew they didn't feel well, and that's you can talk about mask and quarantine and a virus and a shot, whatever. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Stay home.
And for years, I was talking to a teacher the other day. I said, when I was a kid, trying to get home to stay home from school wasn't an adventure because my mother used to be a nurse before she was a teacher. So she was a nurse and a teacher. So there was really no excuse I could give her outside of I was bleeding from, places that she couldn't stop, or I had a fever. That was the only way I was not going to school. I couldn't fake sick. And so now, if you even feel a little bit bad, you don't have to go to school. And again, that's the same thing. If you're feeling sick, nobody wants you to come to work. Nobody wants you around. Just go get healthy, even if it's mild. Nobody wants this. No, so it's simple.
Or at least tell somebody, hey, by the way, I'm sniffling. And it's more than just maybe when you wake up and you have a ceiling fan that's been blowing over you for 7 or 8 hours.
I'm going to tell you right now, if anybody in this room walks in and they got a sniffle and they don't say anything or they're not feeling all that well, there's going to be major, major issues because that's just a very selfish move. I don't care what it is. That's just selfish. And so a dumb move on the part of whoever there were players-wise that just decided I'm just not going to say anything. And now look what happened. Your game with LSU is completely called off, and you're down to 50 scholarship players.
Armstrong, will you go get me that tissue paper? I got.
Hey,
I know you.
playing.
No, I'm telling you, I would. Hey, I'm not.
I mean, I'm not scared of getting it. I'm not living in fear like a lot of people are, but I do worry about those around me. And so it's just an incredibly selfish thing. And I understand you almost probably tell yourself in some cases, I'm sure some of those players are like, no, it can't be that. It's probably just err on the side of caution in these times.
All right. So a couple of things from last night in sports that I want to get to. This is the best tweet I've seen. It made, sometimes Twitter can be evil, but there are some times when Twitter can be funny. I mean, it can make you spit, giggle, laugh, and we need that more. I don't know who this is, but at Jordan L. Ray, 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. The rest is covered by the Tampa Bay Rays defense.
Yeah, they were unbelievable last night. I mean, that was all that the ESPYs, they could take 4. You heard the one, Kiermaier, in the open.
Yep.
Just great catches.
Well, that's a direct takeoff of a poster I used to have in my room when I was younger, not so much because I was a huge fan of the player, but because it was just a really cool poster. That was a Deion Sanders poster, and it actually had a picture of Earth, and he was standing on top of it, and it said that same 71% of the Earth is covered by water, the rest is covered by Deion Sanders. And so that was back in the early 90s, so people are still using that kind of to get the same sort of message across, and that's absolutely right. The Rays played fantastic defense. Every time the Astros thought they had a chance or a hit or something, there was a diving catch, or there was an error by Altuve, or there was, it was just all Rays.
Yep.
I mean, they had an answer for absolutely everything, and so far in this series, they've had an answer for everything.
Game 4 tonight, is that right?
Yeah.
They just keep going.
And Zach Greinke's on the mound.
Yeah,
so that's
Altuve, as soon as he threw that in the dirt on what would have been a force out and possibly a a double play. Tampa scored the Rays scored 5 times, and so that doesn't mean it's over. But we know the odds. It would be very, very difficult for Houston to come back. But that's why you play best of 7. It's not best of 7 if you just get to 3.
By the way, Steve Sachs actually came out and commented and said he feels bad for Jose Altuve. Steve Sachs, former Rookie of the Year, 5-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion. Got the yips in the 80s. He had 30 errors in 1983.
Who was the guy that played for the Twins? There was
it was needed the Yankees, Chuck Knobloch. Former Texas A&M shortstop.
You got to, on the one hand, you can knock Altuve, but without Altuve, half the Astros runs are gone. Then on the other hand, because of Altuve, a majority of the Rays runs have been scored. So it's a weird thing, man. I mean, he's been a big part of their offense, but he's also been a complete liability on defense. It's hard to watch when guys are going through something like that. And I remember when I was playing baseball, and I forgot how to throw. I mean, honestly, and I think that's what Altuve is doing right now. I don't know how it occurred because it was so long ago now at this point, but you start to overthink just the simplest of things. Before a baseball game, you go up, you line up a few yards apart, and you start pitching back and forth to warm up your arm, right? And when you get something like that, you're starting to think about when you release it or where you release it or how hard you're throwing it. And then maybe you lay a little bit off of it, and then maybe you throw it as hard as you want, and then it's just going wherever it's going, and you don't know. And so that's what he's going through right now, and that's a big mental hurdle. And it has dearly cost the Astros, but he's not the only reason why they're losing right now. But they are in big trouble going into tonight.
Yeah, Tampa has been impressive. The Rays have been impressive. I had this thought, and I know that we'll also get to Baylor. I had traded a couple of text messages with a few people on campus, and I think that what they had this 32-28, and of course there was maybe 1 or 2. I think there were probably a couple more positives. They had the notes that came out Monday that Ncaa had told us about an hour or 2 earlier. I was on Austin Radio earlier today with Craig Way, the great voice of UT football and high school football in the state of Texas. And I think that he asked me about what's the peak. Is there a peak? You used to see schools cities or states, and they kind of peaked, and then everything went down. It might have gone up a little bit more. Don't you think, based on what we know before Houston, what we know that there were some in the summer, and that what we know even before they had the offensive line issues against that was why Houston was canceled.
Yeah.
They had the defensive players that were pulled out right before West Virginia, at least a handful, even as they were about to leave. And now since West Virginia, it's not that we don't know, peak would mean 80 guys. But don't you think it's kind of got to the point now where if they can somehow get through this week, that things have to get better.
I mean, you would think. I mean, I don't want to say what I was going to say and potentially, speak that into existence. But no, you would think that at this point, pretty much everybody has come into contact with this virus. There have been reports out there just across the world or the country of, in very few instances, people getting the disease, getting the virus twice. So that is, something you have to be leery of. But yeah, I mean, I would think that for the most part, almost every player on that team will have had their dance with COVID, and they should be over it. You would hope so.
Oh, Florida and LSU. Now Florida deals with it. Obviously, they were just at A&M, and it was not A&M, but perhaps something that while they were in College Station, the hotel, the food service, the buses, the airplane.
Or the people who were sick when they left.
When they left. So you got you have a 36 to 48-hour incubation with other people around you. A couple other notes. Ed Orgeron says his starting quarterback, Miles Brennan, was doubtful to play in that game against Florida, so they dodged a bullet with that one. And even though Florida lost to A&M, they're playing pretty well. Now, the Cardinals, this is a huge deal. Oh, my question on Twitter, I just put it up there, put it out on the poll too. If right now you had to say who you think will play for the Big 12 football championship, there's still, in some cases, 7 games left if we can get them all in. Who do you pick? I know that Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State right now are teams that most people, don't forget Oklahoma's still sleeping on them. They can't really afford another loss. Who would you pick? 254-339-1122. And not just the two teams, but maybe why. The reason I have said Iowa State, and I'm not sold on anybody, the reason I said Iowa State is because they've already beaten Oklahoma, and they also went down and beat TCU on the road, who obviously is a part of this mix as well.
We actually had this question in the mailbag a couple of weeks ago, and we sent those in. And at the time, I said Iowa State, I believe, and TCU. I think that's what I ended up saying. I'll stick with Iowa State. TCU, 2 weeks later, I don't like them as much now because that offense
quarterback plays all messed up, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so it's like the quarterbacks. I thought that with Duggan, like they had finally kind of settled that, but clearly they haven't. So I just don't have a lot of faith in them right now, but I'm still sticking with Iowa State, and I guess the other team would have to just by default be Oklahoma State, but I'm definitely not ruling OU out at this point.
No, I'm not either, and here's the thing about TCU. I kind of was leaning towards that way after what I saw from Max Duggan against Texas, but Max Duggan is probably going to be like he and Spencer Rattler in a couple of years. Like that's going to be a pretty cool little quarterback in the league kind of a thing, but Spencer Rattler just has to get better at doing, what he's really talented at and not making stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Max Duggan is probably a little bit ahead of him in his knowledge of the game, I would think, but his emotions are all over the map, so much so they had to pull him from the Kansas State game for a few series just so Jerry Kill and Kenny Hill could calm him down.
Yeah, and if you haven't Kenny Hill do that. Again, Kenny Hill was a great player at South Lake Carroll. We know his story when it came to A&M and also with TCU. So the Cowboys play Arizona Monday night, and the Cowboys listen, they've been riddled. We know that from Dak Prescott now to everything else, including Tristan Hill, who tore an ACL. The Cardinals have a defensive lineman named Chandler Jones. He's kind of a hybrid, right, Paul, like a stand-up outside pass edge rusher. He's out for the year with a torn bicep.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that Arizona can't win this game, but that's a huge part of that game because he would have, with that offensive line Dallas is dealing with right now, he might have given Andy Dalton or whoever was there fits. So that's kind of a note about that game with the Cardinals and Cowboys. He had 19 sacks last year.
Brother of UFC fighter John Jones.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Who once bowed up on Craig when Craig asked him a difficult question.
Yes, he did. He did.
All right, a couple other things.
I would have totally taken it.
We mentioned the Rays and Astros. 254-339-1122. We still have some of those play cards. I sent out a couple of those last night, those play cards. And again, the name of the company.
It's wallsnobs.com.
Wall and then SNOBS, wallsnobs.com. We got a couple of those play cards. Paul's going to, Armstrong going to zoom in on that. If you call. Now, Brad Gable, former Baylor quarterback, also played in the NFL, will join us. He's now in real estate. He and his wife are in real estate down in the Horseshoe Bay, which is a great place to sell real estate. He'll join us today at 3:25. High school coaches from Connolly and La Vega today at 3:45. La Vega yet with another game that won't be played. Don Hyde discusses that with me. I did get a note from a friend of mine that's in coaching in Louisiana. His name is Jared Ball. He used to be up in the Northeast Texas area. There's a high school called Rummel High School Rummel, not the German.
Yeah,
Rummel.
Obviously,
The
Rummel.
German general,
and in Monterey, Louisiana, they're a 5A school. They've won a championship last year. Pretty good team, private school. But they're looking to play somebody. They were willing to travel no matter how long. I saw Don Hyde. He goes, I'm going to look them up. I gave him the link. I'm not sure that's going to happen because it's already Wednesday. But we'll have them at 3:45, 3:50.
Their mascot isn't the Desert Foxes, is it?
I don't get
Making sure.
Also, see, you guys.
I love it when you do history jokes.
4:30, Doak Field, who's a Sikkim 365 instigator. He's a troublemaker.
He is.
He's also was a hell of a linebacker for Baylor. Doak Field will join us at 4:30. By the way, for you to know, down the road at 4 o'clock on Friday, Frank Ditta, they played together. They were part of that 1980 Southwest Conference Championship team. Walter Abercrombie, among others. He'll be at 4:30 Doak Field today. And then also Olin Buchanan after A&M's win at 4:45. John Machota at 5 o'clock. And then today, Football Bob will join us at 5:30 as well. How about the Tennessee Titans? They're really good. They played for the championship last year in the AFC. They hadn't played in 3 weeks. They've had a couple of practices. They went out and just dismantled Buffalo.
Yes, and the microcosm of dismantling was Josh Norman.
Yeah.
I thought when he hit the ground, he was going to shatter like glass.
You know what he did, though, when he hit the ground? He got up swiping at the ball. He didn't give up on the play, or he wasn't dead. Although
that was the best way he could have gotten up from that. But Derrick Henry threw him away.
If you would have tried to do that to Derrick Henry, what would he have done to you?
I mean, I wouldn't have gotten back up.
No, none of us. I mean, he's a freak. He's an absolute freak. Anyone that can break Kenneth Hall's record from Sugarland, the great record that nobody I thought could ever break, no matter what Robert Strait did, no matter what Jonathan Gray did, no matter what Traylon Shedd did at Cayuga, or anyone else in the history of high school football. He broke the record and had over 4,200 yards of Kenneth Hall.
Yeah, in
1 year.
Josh Allen wasn't very good. Titans were good. That was a nice win for them. Bills are going to have to regroup. But, Tennessee caught a lot of flack last week with those pictures that came out of their, supposed illegal practices, and that was going to turn into the way the NFL reporters were sort of drumming up, the talk of, like, death penalty or forfeits and all that. And, it turns out, and this is a good thing. I mean, I don't root for drama, so I'm glad to know that the NFL looked at it and said, hey, there wasn't anything that was ill intent, and they're not going to get hammered like we thought they were probably going to get hammered, because that certainly didn't look good initially. But that's why you don't just make a knee-jerk reaction and just be like, burn it all down. I mean, because there was more to it, and the Titans, had their little investigation, and everything's been cleared now, and everything's been cleared up, and clearly they didn't need to play a couple games, in that time period. So it worked out well for them.
They look fresh, and Mike Vrabel said everyone in the organization will get a game ball. That means everybody. And I saw David Wetzel earlier today from Baylor, on the staff of Baylor football, put out a picture of a couple of the girls that are a part of the ones who are helping make sure that everything is disinfected and with bags that have been wrapped in plastic and all that, giving them a little shout out. Denzel Mims cleared to come back to practice, had that hamstring that sidelined him most of the year. Carolina, Panthers,
they need
entered enhanced coronavirus protocol after the Falcons' defensive tackle tested positive. The NFL has canceled the Pro Bowl earlier next year. That's fine with me. I was never a big fan of the Pro Bowl. And then how about Le'Veon Bell said, hey, I want to get traded, and he's released. I mean, goodbye.
Well, I don't think there was much of a market for him, especially given the fact that he still owed $6 million this year. And so I don't know.
Did you know that if he gets picked up by somebody and they pay him $1 million, that takes away from the Jets paying him that extra?
So that's why they're gonna he'll clear waivers.
Yep.
He'll clear waivers, and then he'll go to the Bears or the whoever that's going to sign him, the Giants. I don't know, and he might be good again, but he is a life lesson for, I think, the world. In that he had $15 million guaranteed if he just went back and played for the Steelers. If he went back and played, he could have faked an injury and left and gotten that $15 million. I mean, he could have gotten $15 million in his pocket. And on principle, because of the franchise tag, he sat out a year. Now, I was under the impression that the franchise tag was some kind of big bad wolf. But I do a podcast with an NFL player, and he put it in perspective to me, and Orlando Scandrick this week, because he talked about Dak Prescott, and that everybody should feel bad for Dak because he's hurt, but don't feel bad about Dak's money.
No.
He made 16 times what he made a year ago because of the franchise tag.
Made $32 million, right?
Yeah. So in inside that locker room, any NFL locker room of 53 guys, maybe 3 guys or 4 on a team would ever have the chance to get franchise tag. And of those 3 or 4 guys, sometimes it's the kicker just because you don't really need to do anybody else, and you just give the kicker $3 million because it's a sweetheart deal. So none of them feel bad for the franchise player. And if you go back and look at what the Steelers players were saying about Le'Veon Bell when he was sitting out, it was like, he either needs to get here or shut up.
Yeah.
Like, that was it. The players don't feel sympathy for a guy who's turning down $15 million when most of them will never make that in their whole career.
He's gone, and now he's out there, and he's going to get his money, but at the same time now he could end up on the West Coast. And that's an example about it's just kind of not just the athlete today. There have been guys in the past that were sullen, moody, demanding, cancer.
Yeah.
And Le'Veon Bell's career that would have been a 10,000-yard rushing career, whatever, he had a bunch of yards, but now he's just kind of floating out there.
Yeah, I don't feel any sympathy for him. I think anybody who's ever felt sympathy for Dak having to make only $30+ million on the franchise tag is just absolutely silly, and I don't understand how you're somehow thinking that he's getting shortchanged, especially when he's not won anything of substance, quite frankly, out of a couple of division titles. And there's a lot of NFL people out there, quote-unquote NFL experts, that argue about, well, you should go out and get everything that you're worth. And I agree with getting what you're worth, but greedy people, greed eventually comes back to bite you. And greed bit Le'Veon Bell. And I totally understand, you want that long-term guarantee and things like that. But if your franchise tag is $30-something million or whatever the case might have been with Le'Veon Bell, I mean, you're still making more money in 1 year than most everybody else is going to make in a lifetime. So I don't feel too bad for anybody not having that long-term security.
It's Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, both were a part of a franchise that normally runs it pretty well, and both of them are now just floundering out there, twisted in the wind. When we come back, Brad Gable, he's going to be a part of the next level of the Hall of Fame for Baylor Athletics. He was a quarterback for Baylor back in the late 80s. He played in the NFL. I know he was with Philadelphia. He's a real estate guy now in Horseshoe Bay down in Austin. And his thoughts about Baylor, Charlie Brewer, the offense, although we don't have much evidence, one game and then the other, Kansas and then at West Virginia. And just also about being honored. And he was a quarterback for one of those great teams at Cuero in the 80s. They'd been beaten up by Dangerfield and others to get to a state championship and then finally broke through. We'll talk to Brad Gable, former Baylor quarterback. That's next on Sikkim 365 Radio. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you with one thing, helping you feel better, helping you have better energy. Let's just say you don't feel well. You're kind of lethargic. And obviously, it's not because you're sick. It's just something that's not right in your system. And if you're a man and you've gotten a little bit older, sure, there are things that just start to break down. Many things that just aren't the same. Here's what Dr. Petty can do. Send you to get your blood work at a discounted rate. Look at your testosterone levels. And if your testosterone levels are too low, they've dropped a little bit or they've dropped a lot. And a lot of it depends on your age. And for those guys, I'm too young. I'm in my early 30s. Well, you never know. So get the blood work. It's discounted rate. He'll look at the numbers and then put you in a program, if your numbers are too low, to help you become the high-performance man that you want to be. Energy, sleep, sex drive, ED that can be helped with that as well. It's up to you, though, to walk through the front door or go online to PettyClinicLowT.com and contact them. They'll set up the appointment, tell you where to go to get your blood work, look at the results, and put you in the program for you to become the high-performance man that you want and need to be. It's PettyClinicLowT.com.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's the heat of the summer, but the real heat is what you're cooking on the grill, smoker, or in the oven. So Waco Custom Marketplace can be your go-to playmaker for summertime grilling. You can't go eat anywhere else? Be your own chef with custom ordered and cut ribeyes, sirloins, fillets, New York strips with a focus on high-quality beef at a competitive price. Waco Custom Marketplace also has fresh deli cuts with sliced turkey, ham, pepperoni, or corned beef. Waco Custom Marketplace also your home for the freshest seafood in town. Salmon, shrimp, mahi-mahi. Great priced chicken products, whole birds, tenders, chicken breast, and wings. Waco Custom Marketplace with smoked items unique to Waco. House-made bacon, summer sausage, boudin, hot links, and German sausage. Every seasoning for every occasion, grilling, baking, or frying. Your hometown grocery store with canned goods, pasta, fresh baked bread, buns, chips, sauce, condiments to pickles, charcoal and lighter fluid, cold beer and wine. Best kolaches in Waco, mouth-watering cinnamon rolls, and here for the community every single day, helping you avoid the long lines in crowded stores, serving quality products to the Waco community. Go online for the weekly value boxes. Family owned and operated Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
So, earlier this year, Brad Gable, former Baylor quarterback, got the call, kind of like the call that you get, the knock on the door if you're at wherever the Super Bowl is being held for the Hall of Fame. He got the call from Walter Abercrombie, Baylor Associate Athletic Director, and, of course, a part of the Baylor Letter Winners Association. He runs that. And so remember we had Andrew Mellentry on, who used to play at Baylor. He went with the Cincinnati Bengals and a couple of others. But they get the call, and you're basically kind of like immortalized in the Baylor Athletics Hall of Fame. You get this in high school. You get it in college. You get certain statewide or regional or national awards. And Brad Gable's a part of that as well. Former Baylor quarterback joins us now with Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, David Smoke on Sikkim 365 Radio. So, they're going to have this event, and now you have what's going on. What's the update, Brad, on when they might be able to honor you guys?
I haven't heard. When they will have the banquet, they were hoping to do it this fall during football season, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It may be in the spring, or even talk about maybe doing it next year.
What did that call mean to you? Andrew Mellentree, we had him on. I called him earlier that day. Had known him when he was in Tyler, but I mean, he just was beside himself because he thought he would never get that call, and he was a heck of a player. What did it mean to you?
Oh, it was unbelievable as well. I as I said earlier, I didn't think that it would happen. Maybe early on years ago, but just look at all the quarterbacks that they've had, the offenses that they've had, the yards that those guys have put up. It's been tremendous. And I just back in the day, we didn't throw the ball that much. 300 yard was a big day. And I was fine with it. I had a good career, great coaches, great teammates. And I was fine with it. But to get the call from Walter, I was just very, very honored, very humbled. Just can't be any happier and appreciative.
Brad, in 1987, you threw for 2,178 yards, which at the time had to feel like now when somebody throws for 4,000, doesn't it?
Yes, and I was a freshman, too. I was thinking, man, this is easy. This is a piece of college. Oh yeah, it was. At the time we were. I was following up from what Cody Carlson and Tom Mickey had been running. It was a form of a one back and no back offense, and obviously we're seeing it now so much with the spread. But what we were doing is we'd have one back, run him out, open the field, and it was what we did my freshman year, and we changed it up. I went through several different offensive coordinators after that, and we got away from that, but it really fit my style. I was a drop back passer. I could move around a little bit in the pocket, but I just loved spreading the field out and making the defense commit and just hoping that they would blitz, get rid of it hot and big yards.
So as somebody who grew up an Aggie, how did you end up becoming a Baylor Bear?
Wow. Grant Taft, Cotton Davidson, the coaching staff, I just really could relate to. I just love the feel of Baylor, loved Waco. Just felt like a family there. Jackie Sherrill was the coach at A&M at the time, and it was kind of Grant, Jackie, and I just felt like Grant was more my kind of a guy, and it worked out. It worked out well. It really did.
Brad Gable, former Baylor quarterback, was at Cuero, won a state championship, and their last year beat McGregor. Had played in a championship game. Robert Strait, of course, were part of that team in '85. I was at that game covering when Dangerfield was finishing up their great run in the mid '80s. What was it like to finally break through when Cuero finally did break through?
What a great town, great tradition. Growing up there, I went to the games back in the 70s when they went to 3 state finals, won 2 of them. Had some fabulous teams there. Buster Gable was the head coach. So growing up in that tradition, I was just a part of it and wanted to continue and carry on that great tradition there of being a gobbler, and we had success. We had some great athletes. Obviously, had Robert Strait, Trooper Taylor, Adam Arroyo, and myself were all there together at Cuero at a 3A school, and to end up at a D1 place like Baylor was so cool. And they've had a lot of success over the years, and they continue to do well. They've won another state championship. There's just a tremendous amount of talent down there, and just a great support from the small town, the community there, to really keep that tradition alive.
Did you keep from throwing the ball to Steve Stutzman because he played on that '85 Dangerfield team?
We talk about that. We talk about that a lot. Golly, they playing those guys. I mean, I thought we were playing a college team. They were tremendous back in the day in high school, and then to have him there at Baylor with me, great player, great guy, another very football rich small town in Dangerfield.
So in your NFL career, you got to play for Bill Belichick very early on in his coaching career. What was he like as a then young coach?
He was very strict. He'd come from the Bill Parcells tree. You know, he was with the Giants. And my first year, I got Buddy Ryan at Philadelphia Eagles. So I go from Grant Teff to Buddy Ryan to Bill Belichick. Quite a contrast in coaching styles. Belichick was just hard-nosed. Football. We were very well prepared. You know, it was serious stuff, you know, and if you didn't fall in line and do what he wanted, you were gone. It was a revolving door there at Cleveland. I spent 3 years there, and a lot of people don't remember that he coached at Cleveland. He had limited success, but it was early on. But you could tell that he was just going to be a great coach because we all respected him. I mean, you wouldn't want to go drink a beer with him, but, man, you would want to play for him because he was going to have you prepared, you know?
Brad Gable with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Craig?
Brad, when you were at the Eagles, what was it like being around a young Randall Cunningham?
God, tremendous athlete. Just a dynamic player. He would be very, very successful today, the way that these guys are running around, moving around. You know, the Russell Wilsons and Mahomes and, you know, Lamar Jackson. Randall was just an athlete back there that had a tremendous arm. He could move around. He could make plays. I remember he told me, he said, hey, your number one receiver, your first read, take a look. If he doesn't have it, check it down or run. That's what his game plan was. And, you know, he could do that. You know, he was looking at one guy. If he was covered, he was checking it down to Keith Jackson or Keith Byers. And if he didn't have it there, he was taking off running. Now, I couldn't do that. So I was looking at number 1, number 2, and number 3, and then I was trying to get down or get out of bounds.
You know, it's interesting you should say that because he could also, when he took off, he still had that sling of an arm where he could just, like, fire it from all different angles like Mahomes does. So Dak Prescott, unfortunately, is out. He had that horrific injury on Sunday in the loss to the Giants. And here comes Andy Dalton as a seasoned 10-year veteran. You've had to, at times, early on in college, you had to be summoned in because of an injury. What is that moment like? And do you know when it happens if you're truly prepared or not?
Yeah, it's you know, you've got to prepare every game that you're going to get to play. And I know it sounds cliche to just say, hey, you got to be ready. You never know when your time's going to be called. But you really have to prepare just like you're the starter. And I know it, and it's hard because, you know, you sit there for 14 games and you don't get to play a snap. I mean, not even mop-up duty at the end of the game. And then, bam, there it is. You're called upon. So it's just a mental, you've got to go every week, prepare mentally, know the game plan, know what you're going to do with the ball. And then when it happens, you just react. You know, I didn't think about it. I just got in there, you know, and just reacted. And instincts take over. You know, you don't get nervous because you're doing your job. You know, Belichick stresses that, hey, just do your job. And that's what we do. We do our job. You know, we've got a plan. We execute that plan, and you can't think about anything else. You start thinking about, you know, the game clock and the rush and, you know, looking around. I mean, you're going to be lost. You just got to go out there and believe you can do it. Focus, and just prepare. Be ready to play.
You also overlapped a little bit with Jim McMahon. We interviewed him at a Super Bowl. This was, 10 years ago, right, Smokey? And he's a character now. Was he a character then?
Oh, goodness. Man, was he ever. Was he? I think he was probably more of a character back then than he is now. I haven't spoken to him in a number of years, but being a rookie there on that Eagles team with him, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was like we could have made a movie, you know. The guy was just phenomenal. would sleep in the meeting, would stay out all night. I mean, you talk about COVID. I mean, this guy wouldn't have been around if there was COVID back then. I mean, he would burn the midnight oil like anybody I've ever seen. We had a lot of fun, played a lot of golf. He was just a student of the game. He was always ready, but you just couldn't believe it because he'd be late at practice. He'd be sleeping in meetings. He'd be playing dominoes back there with the guys. I mean, you just look at him and you're like, this is not an NFL quarterback. But then, his number's called and that dude is out there slinging it around and he's playing. I mean, he's balling. He's balling.
Brad, can you imagine a guy like Jim McMahon in this era, the social media TMZ era?
It wouldn't have worked out very well.
Now, Charlie Brewer, as you know, Charlie Brewer's had a great career with what he's done at Baylor. He took over on that 1-11 team, bowl game last year, the great run that they made until the end, the 2 losses, the frustrating losses to Oklahoma and then the Sugar Bowl. And he's taken a lot of hits along the way because the offensive line has never really been settled because of scholarships or whatever. They didn't play well on the road against West Virginia. Did you have a chance to watch that game? And what are your thoughts about where Charlie is right now?
I love Charlie Brewer. I've watched him. I've seen him grow. I've seen him mature. I've met him, talked to him. I know his dad. Mm-hmm. He's a great kid. He's a fierce competitor. He's a fabulous person. I really like Charlie. He's a grinder. I mean, he's the kind of guy that you want in there in the fourth quarter, and guys will rally around him. I mean, look at the number of comeback victories he's had for us, and he's got us to overtimes. And we haven't won all of them, but he gets us there, and he is just a really, really good player. I wish they could get it settled on the offensive line, and if he just have a good group that stays healthy, and I like him a lot. I think he's done a tremendous job.
Yeah, and again, it's just a weird year. It's a crazy year with what they're dealing with. I know there's a push and pull and tug of war on whether Charlie. I've said this. I said this after the West Virginia game, which he threw the pick at the end. I've said it, and I'm riding with him until there's no wheels left on the bus. I'm gonna ride with him, and not everybody agrees with me, but I agree with everything you said about him. It's tough.
Absolutely, I'm riding with him too. You can't. I mean, he's done so much for us. You can't just pick one game or one play. I mean, you look at his entirety of his work and what he's done over the years, and you just got to you got to believe in him. And it's early, it's still early. And what a crazy year. How tough is this? I mean, how tough is it to be a quarterback or any player on this team and this COVID season? I mean, I don't, I just saw last week that, or earlier this week that, we got canceled again. And I mean, it's just tough. It's just hard to get any routine and how are they working out? How are they practicing? I mean, are they doing it virtually? I'm at a loss.
Well, they were supposed to use last week as a week to catch up on some reps, and of course that got suspended midweek, late week, and then this week, of course, they haven't been able to do much either because of the game being canceled. You mentioned COVID. You're in real estate down in a beautiful area, Horseshoe Bay. You and your wife are a part of that real estate company. Your thoughts about how it's affected you? And sometimes real estate has boomed during this time. What's going on with your business?
It's been tremendous. I would never have guessed it earlier this year, but we are busier than we've ever been. And people are moving out of the cities. They're feeling like they want to get out. They can work from home. Technology is such that, hey, let's move out to the lake. Let's move out to Horseshoe Bay. Let's get on the golf course. Let's enjoy life, and we can work from wherever we want to work. And let's get out. It's safe out there. It feels good. You got clean air, and we're thankful. We're blessed. We're busy as we can be. It's a great area. Just been very fortunate to to be in real estate going on 25 years now. I love what I do. I meet some great people, and give me a call.
Hey, Brad, thanks for jumping on with us again. It's always great to listen to you reflect, reminisce, and get your feedback on many things that have happened since. And good luck eventually when the banquet, the dinner, no question it'll be a great night for you and many, many others. Thanks for your time.
Great. I hope to see y'all then. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Brad Gable, quarterback for Baylor in the late 80s. He was also a part of that team that I saw the game. It was here at, what was Floyd Casey Stadium in 85. Dangerfield won 47-22. Steve Stutzman was a tight end who played at Baylor. David Mims, running back, that played at Baylor on that team. That was a young Robert Strait.
Was 22 that was more than they'd given up all year collectively, right?
83, yeah, they
83
gave up
was
the
one,
8.
yeah.
And
Okay.
in 85, they just steamrolled people with an offense, and although that was a game here. Now, when we come back, Shane Anderson of Conley, they're 3-3. They have 2 games in which you would think they're manageable, with all due respect to Gerald and also Gatesville. They have had some issues, man. They've got some issues with penalties and discipline, and Shane kind of maybe gives us some insight on that. Then also hear from Don Hyde, another week off for them, although they'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime if somebody was to give them a call for Friday night. And then at 4:30, Doak Field, former Baylor linebacker. We'll also hear from John Machota on the Cowboys at 5:30, Football Bob on many things college football. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. 10% off all ribeye steaks. 10% off all ribeye steaks right now at Waco Custom Marketplace. That's throughout this week. Chuck short ribs, $5.30 a pound. Chicken drumsticks, $1.25 a pound. Regular summer sausage, jalapeno cheese, summer sausage on sale as well. Scallops, if you want to get really fancy with your dinner, on scallops at $19.50 a pound. Alligator meat, $12.79 a pound. Crawfish tail meat, $14.95 a pound. The other day I made some of that crawfish and shrimp etouffee, and their crawfish tails that have already been peeled and everything. It's easy. It tastes so delicious as a part of whatever you might use to make it, with maple breakfast patties for $2.99 a pound. Waco Custom Marketplace, butcher shop and bakery. And on top of that, everything else you kind of would expect to need if you need something from the grocery store. Hometown, 425 Lake Air Drive, WacoCustomMarketplace.com. The Bauer family runs it, owns it, and has done an amazing job with it. You could have all of your tailgate food customized by ordering online or calling them and pick it up when you need it. And also just what you want when your cuts of steak, whether it's bacon wrap fillets or even if it is a big, thick bone-in ribeye or regular ribeyes. And as I mentioned, all ribeye steaks are 10% off right now. And the butcher shop attached with the bakery on the other side of the store, every morning, fresh-baked kolaches along with all the other sweets you could imagine. Seasonings, spices, they have cold beer and wine. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Central Texas traditions run deep, all the way to the vehicles we drive. That's why folks trust Alan Samuels. During Alan Samuels Jeep Adventure Days, get employee pricing for all on new 2020 Gladiator Sport and no payments for 90 days. Plus, the tougher-than-nails 2020 Jeep Renegade, 0 for 72, no payments for 90 days, or up to $6,250 in cash and subprime offers. Trusted. That's Alan Samuels, your friend in the car business.
How can we help you? That's a question we ask every day at American Bank. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Our commitment to our customers is what drives us. It's why we've invested in new branch buildings and technology like ITMs that let you speak to a teller face-to-face from your car. It's why we work with local businesses, helping Waco grow and thrive. And it's why decisions about your accounts and loans are made here in Waco by people who know you. How can we help you? Find out at American Bank, member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
What you do in privacy is your own business. What you do in public with your truck, well, that's our business at Pickup Outfitters. In your garage, it's okay for your truck to parade around in the nude with no accessories. Hey, this is still America. But when you bring your truck out in public, it's just common decency to put an outfit on your truck. And that's where we come in at Pickup Outfitters. Put a cover on that bed. Cover your rear end with a bumper and a hitch, for goodness sakes. There are women and children on the roads. And guys, don't leave your tools exposed. Put them in a toolbox. Be proud of your truck and stand tall with a lift kit. Or improve your truck's posture with a leveling kit. Add some class to your pickup with new wheels and tires. Or dress up for a date with your new RV or boat with a fifth wheel or a receiver hitch. At Pickup Outfitters, we're dedicating to making the roads decent for all Central Texans. So when taking your truck out in public, remember your manners and accessorize it properly with an outfit from Pickup Outfitters. 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance in McLennan County takes pride in backing Central Texas football. Our agents would like to help with your insurance needs. Call 254-772-8090 for an agent near you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Conley football coach Shane Anderson. I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new Sikkim 365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This segment with Connolly Cadets football coach Shane Anderson is sponsored by Masonic Construction, Sturdy Steel, American Bank, Graham Properties, Richard Carr Motors, Parsons Roofing, First Central Credit Union, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine.
Well, you know, there's times during the season, and you've had a couple of those after La Vega, after the Springtown, and now this one was Salado, where you played well, but you didn't play well enough, and you had some of the same things that cropped up. What's the message this week as you face Gerald on the road?
We just have to do a better job focusing. Our word of the week is focus. Talk to the kids first and foremost. We have to focus, on the penalties. Way too many penalties. Anytime you lose the penalty battle, 12-3. You can look at penalties however you want to look at them. At the end of the day, they're a penalty. The flag's on the ground and they go against you. And so, we have to accept that. As a football team, as a coaching staff, and we have to do a better job of eliminating penalties. So we have to focus there. I challenge the kids to focus on themselves, not only as a player, but as a teammate. Are you being the best teammates you can be, each and every day, each and every week? And, and then focus on being a playoff football team, because that's what we're going to be. And, just a bump in the road, and we got to pick ourselves up, and we got to move on, and we got to pick up these next 2 wins and then get ready for a China Spring team in a couple weeks.
I know that you and what you've represented and what, discipline means to you. And I know at times that's a challenge. When you hear that your team is undisciplined, or you see that your team is undisciplined, how much does that hurt you?
Oh, it's embarrassing. I mean, it bothers me a ton, and we address that with our team, and we had a little event right there before the half that's totally unacceptable. But then you got to go look at yourself in the mirror. I have to look at myself in the mirror as a head coach. When you put a lot of pressure on kids and you hype up a game like we hyped up the game last week, and you put the pressure and you tighten the screws on kids, then you got to be prepared for them not to respond, like you want them to. Maybe respond like a kid, and you got to keep that in perspective as a coach and as a man. And you got to use it as a teachable moment. You can't let it define your season. You got to let it be part of your story. And at the end of this thing, we'll look back and hopefully learn from it.
So on the road against Gerald, they're struggling. Their roster's depleted. They did have a win. They had a huge win against Robinson. I like Amos Davidson and what he's trying to do there. Your thoughts about what they have? Because obviously right now they're very low on numbers.
Yeah, Coach Davidson, he's a heck of a guy and heck of a coach. And, when you turn on the film, obviously they got that big win against Robinson last week. And then when you look at them, they're not broke. The first thing that stands out is they are well coached. By scheme, you can tell that they know what they're doing. You can tell by scheme that they're going to give their kids an opportunity to be as successful as possible. And then their kids play extremely hard, and they play for 4 quarters as hard as they can play. And you got to respect that, and you got to go in there and you got to make sure that you don't give them any hope or false hope, and you got to get after them from the word go.
Hi, this is La Vega head football coach Don Hyde, and you're listening to Sikkim 365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke. This is your home for the best high school football coverage in Texas.
This segment with La Vega Pirates football coach Don Hyde is sponsored by American Bank, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine.
The game with Brownwood, which was canceled, a forfeit for you because of the issue that they're dealing with. I saw today you moved them to November the 6th. It won't count as a district game, but the philosophy of just getting that game on the schedule in case you can play an extra game.
Well, certainly it was important for us to play another game. I mean, we lost a game in week 5, and then now we lost a game again in week 8. And so we're scheduled to play in week 9 and week 10, and so we didn't have anything for 11. And I talked to Coach Burnett at Brownwood and told him that, if I didn't have anything and he didn't have anything, then let's go ahead and play that game in week 11. I contacted UIL and make sure that was okay, that we could do that. And he said, sounded good to him. He wants to play too. And so we're going to, if we're both available week 11, we're going to play that game in week 11.
And then, of course, that could be used, you hope not, for a game with either what you have coming up, either Heritage or Alvarado, if that needs to be moved back for any reason. So you have this break again. Your team has handled it pretty well. But, man, do you feel like you could ever just get into a rhythm right now?
Well, we told our kids when this all started that we don't know what tomorrow holds. All we can take care of is today. And so that's kind of been our approach as a coaching staff, and it's kind of filtered into our kids. And every day's a new day, and just be thankful you're out there practicing football and playing football on the day you're out there. And so, we consider it a blessing at La Vega High School to be able to play football and be on the field. And so our kids just adjusting as the days go by.
Jordan Rogers put up huge numbers for you, and this was just a matter of time, and he's done it before, but is he now as comfortable as you've seen him? I know he can obviously get better, but is he now pretty comfortable at that quarterback spot?
Well, yeah, he's getting more and more comfortable, but at the same time, our offensive staff's done a great job of putting together things that he can do, and that's where we struggled to begin with because we didn't really know what Jordan could and couldn't do at quarterback position. I mean, we knew he was a great athlete. We didn't know what he could throw, what he was comfortable throwing, and what he was comfortable reading, and all that stuff. And so, we've had to make some adjustments to the coaching staff, and our offensive staff's done a really good job of putting him in position to be successful.
Now you have this off week because of the cancellation of the forfeit. And is this give you another week at Aaron Rawls? Is he almost ready to come back and cleared, or can you comment on that yet?
Well, I think he goes back to the doctor next Thursday, and so, I'm not really in a position to comment on that. We're just taking it week by week. But, that's another reason for me to schedule that Week 11 game. If we're able to get him back, then maybe get him 2 or 3 games in, but below his belt before we possibly get in the playoffs. Just some more experience underneath him and some more game time.
Is there anything other than the schedule that's you knew that this would be that kind of a year? Is there anything that you've done that's better than you thought? Is there a position group, a player that may have stepped up that's been a nice surprise?
I think our defensive line's really done a fabulous job for us of being able to pressure the quarterback and then also do the things we asked them to do as far as in the run game. And then, of course, our linebacker position was pretty much depleted other than our Mike linebacker when we moved Jordan back to safety and then, of course, moved him over to quarterback. And so we're playing with 2 brand-new outside linebackers, and they've done a really good job for us of understanding the concepts we try to teach and fitting where they got to fit in the run game and covering where they got to cover in the passing game. So, we got some other experienced kids out there in the secondary and receiver and all that stuff. And, our offensive line is always going to be solid. And so, just the new kids that are out on the field that, just really enjoy what we're doing, really understand the scheme and just having fun doing it. I'm just impressed with all of them.
Bird Culture Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culture Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culture Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new pre-owned Bird Culture Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership, online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culture Ford.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trust, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Murray looking deep for DeAndre Hopkins on the sideline, and DeAndre Hopkins adjusting his body to make the catch.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
That didn't sound like a very good mixture right there.
No.
A little bit different audio. But good afternoon. Welcome to the 4 o'clock hour, Sikkim 365 Radio. As we continue here, well, at 4:30 here from Doak Field, former Baylor linebacker, who's now, when I spoke with him a little bit earlier this week, just chilling in the hill country and chasing down stuff and just kind of out in the pasture, or not even the pasture. He's on hills and enjoying life. We'll have Doak Field join us. Frank Ditta on Friday. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, David Smoke. Now, the Big 12 Conference, Craig, you gave this to me. They're going to host the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship in 2023, 24, and 26. 23 will be in Kansas City, a regional. 24 at the American Airlines Center, a regional. And first and second rounds in 2026 in Oklahoma City. We've been at all those places, and they're all built perfectly to host basketball. Of course, American Airlines Center does more than that as well.
I might need to make a return trip to Kansas City because my first and only was very forgettable.
On lockdown.
Yeah, it was actually very memorable, not forgettable. But, I basically flew in that morning solo and went to the hotel room with COVID about to burst at the seams, and that really becoming a thing, and was kind of weirded out being in the airport with all that was going on. And then, 27 hours later, after doing a radio show, I was back on a plane heading back to Dallas because the Big 12 tournament had been canceled. We didn't see a single game.
I hate that, Paul. You've been there more than I have. I've been there plenty, and it is such an incredible place to go watch basketball. The energy inside that arena is phenomenal. It was going to be both the men and women this year. The women were going to be there, of course, as well.
I really wanted to go check out if we had time, because typically with that, we would have had, like, on that Saturday or something, like a few hours or whatever. Apparently, the World War I Museum out there in Kansas City, that would have been really cool to go check out.
Yeah, everything. So the Negro League Baseball Museum is there. I've been there several times just because sometimes Baylor's lost, and I've had, some time to kill before my flight. So one time I flew out. They didn't play on Saturday. They played on Friday, and my flight was on Sunday, so changing the flight was negligible to the hotel room. So I just stayed for the championship game, but my flight on Sunday was at 6:30 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
So I had all day. So I went to both those museums because I had nothing to do. I mean, I had to get out of my hotel room at noon.
It's a really neat city at night. What do they call it? The Gaslight District or whatever? What's that called?
No, that's San Diego.
Oh,
it's the Power and Light.
Power and Light District. Yeah. That's just me in my mind.
I didn't have any barbecue, where do you rank Kansas City on your barbecue charts?
It's good. And there's a place that Scott Drew loves that is Q39, and he will get bird ends at Q39, which is down in Westport.
Bird ends are good. Wait a minute. We've been to the place. And see, sometimes.
We went to Arthur Bryant's.
I've made this comment before. Yeah. Here's the thing. Sometimes food is good, and it doesn't mean because you get a lot of it, it's a great place to eat. Yeah. Although sometimes that gets.
You and I went to both Arthur Bryant's and Eskimo.
That's the one I still got a couple of big plastic.
Yeah. Joe's Kansas City, which was Oklahoma Joe's, but
that's on the way out of town, right?
No, we went out of town. Like it was on our way out of town, but it's in town. But we stood in line.
That was numbing the line.
You just mentioned the NCAA tournament, the Big 12 sites, and it's now been laid out for the next few years. But Baylor has sent out this afternoon that tennis will host the 2025 NCAA men's and women's championships. And in 2026, I know we're getting way down the line, but this is when the announcements were made. Baylor and the city of Waco will host the 2026 NCAA Women's Golf Regional. So a few more events, 2025 NCAA Men's and Women's Championships in tennis, and then the Golf Regional in 2026 for the women.
Now, also out there today, and I this is really kind of, I don't know if it's new or not, but that year of eligibility, that extra year of eligibility. We've mentioned this, it seems like ad nauseum, almost since March. And then, of course, through the summer, Mack Rhodes has discussed it. We've discussed it. But you do get the extra year, right? That's official now?
Has become official. And so everybody who's playing this year in winter sports, which is, everybody playing right now, they are all available to take advantage of an extra year of eligibility. And we didn't go over the pop quiz at all this week, which we typically do, but that was one of the questions in there was how many players in football who are seniors do we expect to come back this season? And, that'll make for some very interesting decisions because you're talking about a lot of big-time seniors that Baylor football has that could actually come back next year. And
how much
obviously that goes across the rest of the country.
How much do you think will COVID and really a weird year perhaps either force people to go, I'm getting the hell out of here, or, I might be able to help myself with that extra year.
I think you'll see some people that'll surprise you either way, where some people you think, like, they may want it, but that, you know what, it's time for me to move on with my life. Yeah. And then other people that you think, oh, they're for sure got to go, and then they say, you know what, no, I want to stay. But I do think, there's a lot of options on this Baylor team. I think, to me, Charlie Brewer is the biggest wild card, obviously, but I don't think, the ones I expect to go would be, the transfers, King and Burton, but Bradley King and Burton. But I do think that Atkinson could stay, McVay could stay. I mean, like all those guys could stay. I mean, they could all benefit from it.
Xavier Newman. I mean,
What
there's a
about
lot
Terrell Bernard?
I don't think
he needs to stay any longer. I think he needs to go and make that money.
Yeah.
I mean, selfishly, I would love to see him play forever at Baylor, but I think he's legit an NFL guy.
Let's get him on and keep him for another year. I mean, we went just full homer by me saying that. I want to be able to cover him another year. We've only covered like 7 of his games.
Yeah, really.
He played last year, but he didn't start till after Oklahoma. And we saw what he did. Wouldn't you like to be able to cover him for a full year? And he's dynamic in their first win, and they're also lost.
Yeah, it'd be great. And the other thing we're missing out, you mentioned covering, he's a dynamic player, but he's also a good interview. So, you lose a good interview that you don't even really get in.
He's one of the guys that made it's available.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think he's gone. And some of the other ones might surprise you. Look, there may be some juniors that just decide to leave across the country that you might thought, I'll stay, but they won't.
254-339-1122. I asked the question about who would you pick as the Big 12 championship 2 teams. Sean just sent me a note. Oklahoma State over K-State. Oklahoma State defense. Faith in Chuba keeps improving. K-State D and Howard's rushing ability adds enough spice. Is Howard a mobile quarterback?
I didn't think so.
Okay. Also, I got something on the Sikkim365.com in the premium section. Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Baylor. If Charlie gets things worked out, or with a quarterback change that changes up what we're doing now on offense, and that remains to be seen. Here's the one that is one of the, and it's always an offbeat. Jason King did these forever now. Ashley Hodge. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. Armstrong. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. Is that for you?
Breakfast?
Yes.
No.
Do you even eat breakfast? Are you even up before what would normally be called breakfast time?
No. I do eat breakfast, but it's probably my third favorite meal.
254-339-1122 on the text line, and also, I'm just curious. It's just offbeat, something different. We'll have Doak filled at 4:30. Is breakfast your favorite meal of the day? Craig?
No.
Paul?
You know what? Yes.
What?
It is. I love breakfast foods. I do. Eggs, bacon. Love it.
Not foods. Is it your favorite meal of the day?
Isn't that the question, though?
Is
breakfast foods?
I mean, like,
what you eat at breakfast has to do with if it's the best meal.
Okay, I could only say yes when I'm traveling.
If you asked me what my favorite time today to eat is, it's probably not in the morning, but, I don't know.
Only when I'm traveling, because when we've been in some hotels and they've had those buffets, and it's not because of what's available, it's because there's options. You can change it up every day. I like the omelet that's cooked for me and a little bit of the other things they have. But when I'm at home, I have a little thing of yogurt when I finish a workout. That's it. I don't, very rarely. Although today I think I had those electric toaster waffles.
I mostly have a boiled egg. That's what I have most days. But, and I like that.
And it's your favorite meal.
But I mean,
you eat one boiled egg.
But if I'm going to have a favorite meal, I do, breakfast is the one I'd like to, I don't know. I'm a dinner guy as well. I don't know. But, do you like Craig or Jennifer more?
Both.
Yeah, there you go. See?
How will the seniors possibly come back affect recruiting and scholarship limits?
See, that's the thing, and that's what I said in the pop quiz. Is I chose the players. I chose the number of people that I thought would come back, and I think there was 11 eligible players that could eventually take advantage that would be moving on otherwise. And I think I settled in around 5, and the reason being that I do expect Burton and Bradley King to go, especially Bradley King. I do expect Bernard to go. Although he's just a junior, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't think I counted him. Whoever else it was, there's a couple of other automatics that I put in there. And then I had the question of, okay, if you're Jared Atkinson at this point, do you want to be around for another year? Because there's no doubt going to be some guys who, like you said, are just ready to move on, just ready to get out of college, and it's clear they're not probably going to play in the NFL, so it's just let's just go live life now. So I settled in at 5, and it will be curious to see, because I had in there, that's not going to just be the players' choices. The players don't just get the choice to say, they do get the choice to say, hey, I would like to come back, but the coaches don't have to bring them back. They're under no obligation to grant them that other year because they might want some of these guys to move on.
And those guys could grad transfer, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's options for them now. And I do think sometimes, like, all of us who weren't scholarship athletes just assume you'd want to play as long as you can.
Right.
But for a lot of guys, they get to a point in their life where it's time to go. Like, if it's not going to be, I'll point out, look, Nick Florence had, and it wasn't like his career would have been over after Baylor. He had opportunities in the NFL. He could have hung on in the NFL for a while.
He could have been a guy that somehow, because of who he was and the fact he just got things done, he wasn't the biggest, tallest, fastest, strongest, biggest arm, but he just made plays, kind of even like a Nick Foles.
He was efficient.
Yeah.
He was efficient.
He just didn't. He was tired of playing football.
Yeah, he was ready to move on to the next part of his life. And it doesn't happen that often, but when it does, I mean, and sometimes guys, they could go and take that grad transfer, but do they want to really start all over again and up and down and up and down?
Some guys just don't want to go to class anymore, and if you already have your degree, I mean, unless you just really want that second degree, you might just want to be done with school.
If you could keep the college lifestyle and not go to class and have your parents pay for everything for a while or somebody else do it, most people probably would stretch that out, but that's not the reality of life. Like, if you're going to be in college, you got to go to class. So again, I remember, like, when I was done with college, like, I would have loved to stay in Tallahassee and messed around for another 6, 8, 10 months, not go to class, but that's not really how life works.
I could not wait to get out of college.
Yeah, I wanted to stop going to class.
Because I spent 4 years completely focused on getting all my credits and getting out of there in 4 years, mainly because I didn't want to have to linger and also have my, the student loan, even though it was interest-free. I didn't want to have to pay even more. I got in, I did 8 semesters, done, and I got out and I started working at Domino's and then got a job in TV in 1981.
You know what happened to me was I kind of started looking around and it was like me and 3 of the original friends. And not that I didn't want to make new friends, but it was like, man, I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be Van Wilder. I can't pull that off. I'm not that cool.
Yeah, that's a nice thought, but reality does eventually set in, and it's just time to move on. But yeah, Van Wilder, if it was like that, I don't know. I think a lot of these guys probably would come back for another year, but they have that whole pesky football practice, and games and classes and things like that are standing in the way. But that's going to be very interesting to see because again, it's not going to just be the players' choices. It's going to be a matter of who Dave Aranda and company feel like is worth bringing back and fulfilling one of those scholarships that they otherwise could give to a 2 or 4 year player that could help out for next season, and who they feel like it probably needs to move along, doesn't really have a place any longer. And that's going to be some tough conversations, but that's what we've heard from all these coaches. That's what Steve Rodriguez said when we had him on about baseball and managing scholarships and having that extra year. He said, hey, we've had to have some tough conversations, and that goes across the board. But that is official now today, so that's a big ruling.
Now, today, the Texas Built Ford Tough announced their high school football players of the week, and one name out of Central Texas. I nominated him. He was a part of our Player of the Week ballot. Demarie Hamilton from Dawson. He was the 2A Texas Built Ford Tough Player of the Week. Of course, Burt Colgan Ford, a part of that as well. He had over 300 yards. He was homecoming king, earlier this year. Just a hell of a player. His brother is also a major part of what they do, Jamarie. But so he won the 2A Outstanding Built Ford Tough Player of the Week for Week 7. Now, here's a story. This is me, again, the history of high school football that I try to latch on to as much as possible. And Craig Way and I had great fun talking about it a little bit today on his station. And he was on earlier this morning.
Jeff Howe doing the show with him?
He was out today.
Okay.
And then Craig's going to be out the next couple of days. And so Jeff was out today, but it's interesting you brought him up. Now, the other one, the 3A is Hunter Mays. Now, why would I bring up Hunter Mays, running back, defensive back, Huntington High School? Where am I going with this?
I don't know.
He had a monster game. And they beat Cold Spring. This is a story about Huntington football. They started playing football in 1982. They have never won more than 3 games in a year.
Really? Wow.
The Red Devils.
I started out covering high school football in November of 81. That was my job when I got to KTRE Channel 9 out of Domino's University. And I remember they had a great basketball program. They did. And they're just on the south part of Lufkin. I think it's Lufkin, Diboll, then maybe Huntington, whatever. I don't know where. But they have never, think about this, since 1982, 38 years, They've never had a 500 season. They've never had a above 500 season. They've never won more than 3 games in a year. Now, they've made the playoffs like a handful of times. They've never won more than 3 games in a year. They're 3-3 this year.
So that 4th win.
Oh, they ought to have
a shut down downtown.
Shut down Huntington.
Just have a party in the city.
Basketball school. Yeah, and no, it's not a very big school, but they're a 3A school. And I spoke with the coach, and I'm telling you, that's just one of those. To me, that's a great story. 38 years, never win more than 3 games in a year. I sent a text to the coach, hey, congratulations for Hunter. And I said, you're trying to become the first team ever to get to 500. He goes, heck, we're trying to be the first team to win more than 3 games. The pressure's enormous. They're 3-3, and they're in a pretty decent district. It's not like they can't win another game. So that's just a story.
Can you imagine the team across that loses the when they win that 4th game, and the team they just go nuts on their winning the 4th game, and everybody across is like, hey, I mean, I'm sure you're happy, but I mean, come on, what's this about? They don't know the history of it.
Yeah, and I just think that's cool. I love that story more than I do a team that's been to the playoffs 25 years in a row. Maybe that's just the underdog part of it. I don't know, but the never have won 3 games, and they had a coach came there. He was there recently, and I don't know where he is now. I think he might be up in one of those smaller schools north of us, not Italy, but somewhere like that. But Jim Curbo moved into this area, in the northern part of this area, in Central Texas. But man, that's
good for them. That's they got to win it first.
They played Trinity. So. Trinity's 1-5. They're 3-3, and they just beat Cold Spring 34-26. So I wish them the best of luck.
Yeah, good for them.
Yep. We've had some SEC statistics from yesterday. We had a bunch of those, right? Today, Pat 40-yard dash. The SEC is unrecognizable as defense is underwhelmed.
So dramatic.
But here's a couple of notes. We know about Alabama's stretch. Gave up 45 points. They've now done that 3 times in the last 8 games. We know Florida's given up more yards than the history of the school in the first points in the yards. Yeah, no, points, I guess, in the history of the school, first 3 games or so. LSU, we know their story. Texas A&M, I didn't know this. They are on pace to set a school record for most yards allowed per play, 6.75. There are 3 SEC teams, though, that give up more. LSU and Vanderbilt over 7 yards a play.
Wrecking who? Golly. I mean, that's come on.
But they won the game. Let's see here.
No, there's a lot of people in college football right now panicking over the SEC defenses. I saw one guy comment, well, just wait till the Big Ten gets started. Then defenses will come back and be like, yeah, because hardly anybody plays great offense in the Big Ten. So, yeah, of course it will, outside of, like, Ohio State and maybe Penn State and a couple others to a certain extent. But, I mean, when you're going up against, basically Wisconsin ramming it down your throat, I mean, not a lot of people can stop it, but it's not the high-flying, Art Briles, LSU, Joe Brady offenses that we're seeing now. And look, I mean, SEC, wake up. Your defenses are fine. They're just learning what the Big 12 defenses learned about 15 years ago.
And look, the Big 12 has kind of stemmed the tide a little bit.
What did the SEC do? They brought in A&M in Missouri, remember?
Yeah.
And they had to deal with Johnny Football. And then Missouri, they had a pretty decent – didn't they play like in one of the very first SEC championship games? Here's some of the things that you look at, because let's look at why. Well, who coaches at Arkansas now?
Well, Sam Pittman, but Kendall Browse.
Really Kendall Browse, yeah.
Mike Leach at Mississippi State.
Man, we got to talk about that 2-point score, though.
I know.
Oh, my gosh, that was incredible.
But he did set the world on fire when they beat LSU.
But that is so Leach.
Eli Drinkwitz is an offensive mind. Todd Monken at Georgia. Mm-hmm. They lost Dave Aranda. Replaced him with Pelini, which all due respect is a downgrade. Mike Elko and Todd Grantham are not making the kind of inroads based on their salaries. This is part of the story. But here's a couple of others. They lost Joe Burrow and Tua, right? Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of veteran quarterbacks back. A couple of transfers came in. And here's another thought. I never thought about this. How much does the lack of crowd help the offense on the road?
Oh, I'm sure it helps them out tremendously.
Because most of Vanderbilt's not a very big stadium, but most of those, it could be in this conference too, with the Big 12 or even the 8. But there aren't even though Florida could not hear at times, and they called a timeout, delay of games, false starts. How much does that maybe affect a little bit of what the defenses usually would have that if you're home and being able to kind of have a little bit of a factor as well? But
I'll tell you right now, there's some SEC folks out there who seem to believe that the defenses are just suffering from some rust and
COVID
because they have better athletes in the Big 12 that they're eventually going to figure it out. But I don't think so. I think this is, Lane Kiffin even said when Nick Saban tried to accuse Ole Miss of having stolen signals, and that's why Alabama's defense had such a struggle with Jeff Lebby and Lane Kiffin's offense. And Lane Kiffin had a great response. And this 2020 year has been so weird that I'm actually starting to like Lane Kiffin a little bit, believe it or not. But he said, well, it's impossible that we knew their plays because we moved too fast for them to have been able to do it.
Yeah.
Like, we moved too fast to have even read anything that they were doing. They were adjusting to us.
It was neat to see Lebby and Clem, Randy Clements, offensive line coach, because they've had to bounce around quite a bit since 2016. You know what, Craig? That's a good point as well. I didn't even mention you have Lebby, who's got kind of known as a guy that throws it around, and Lebby obviously came from the tree, from the tree of Baylor.
I mean, there's a Baylor infiltration, a former Baylor infiltration.
Kendall Browse, Jeff Lebby, Randy Clements. Randall Clements is one of the best offensive line coaches in America.
And Kendall Browse is starting to move the ball at Arkansas, and he was starting to move the ball at Florida State last year. And his last two quarterbacks have been James Blackman and Felipe Franks, two guys that a lot of people aren't crazy about. He can move the ball. A lot of people, or just one I know for sure.
Well,
I mean, look, Felipe Franks got run out of Florida, a place that hadn't had a quarterback in forever. Now Kyle Trask stepped in well there, but again, midway through last year, Kyle Trask was just kind of all right, and then he started to build. But he's doing it with guys who are cast-offs essentially.
Dodgers and Braves are about to start their third game. Braves are up 2-0. Dodgers, that would be a tough pill to swallow, but they're in trouble tonight. Astros trying to avoid the sweep against Tampa.
Well, if it's Tampa and Atlanta, and I don't know that it will be, we'll see. It certainly is heading that direction. I mean, get ready for the MLB ratings are down in the World Series, because I don't know how many people I would be interested, because I don't really care what city they come from. But as far as like having Dodgers and Astros versus Braves and Rays.
Dodgers and Astros would be some bad blood too.
Yeah, it would.
Here's the thing I want to say about Tampa Bay, the Rays. I know that they're in your division, and so you don't like them, and that's fine. Does anyone do more with less?
No. That's why the Red Sox hired their GM.
So why don't we love them more? I love the story. The Rays have rebuilt like 3 different times. They had Madden, who did a great job, and he bounced around.
I should like Kevin Cash.
They do. Yeah. They're like the A's, and in some cases at times the Twins.
They're better than both of them because they get to the World Series.
Those are 3 that don't have a lot of payroll.
And they were just in the World Series a few years ago, right? And
10 years ago, yeah.
10 years. I mean, so 10 years ago. But after that, it broke down. They struggled a little bit. They built it back up.
And
Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
Look at the Rays.
All right,
and the Rays do it without gate. I mean, they do it without people buying tickets.
No, they don't, and they have to let people walk. All right, coming up next, Doak Field, former Baylor linebacker, a part of that 1980 Southwest Conference Championship team. Frank Ditta on Friday. Much more to come. We'll also have Football Bob today at 5:30. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They've got the kickoff savings event going on right now. And, man alive, they have had deals going on since we started this show back in April. I mean, even through the coronavirus lockdowns and everything that was going on with that, Richard Carr has just continued to move vehicles, and they've continued to be the best when it comes to customer service and also deals. And those deals continue with the kickoff savings event continuing on. What that means basically is that all 2020 vehicles on the lot are priced to move now. You can get it all a smooth, quiet ride in first-class interior matched with power and durability with the GMC Sierra, a.k.a. the best truck on the road. During Richard Carr's kickoff savings event, qualified buyers will score $9,000 off a 2020 GMC Sierra at Richard Carr. They also have the 3-row Buick Enclave, an amazing value in a luxury SUV. During the kickoff savings event, all 2020 3-row Buick Enclaves are $10,000 off, or you can get the versatile and nimble Buick Encore for only $19,900. And maybe, just maybe, you're ready to step up to the ultimate luxury and style of a Cadillac. We'll let Richard Carr bring the Cadillac experience to you with an XT4, XT5, or the full-size 7-passenger Cadillac XT6, and save $2,000 $30,000. They also have the 2020 Cadillac XT4 starting at only $34,690 at Richard Carr Cadillac, and one of the best sedan values in the market with the exhilarating 2020 Cadillac CT4 sedan starting at $32,995. It's the kickoff savings event at Richard Carr. Score huge savings right now on all vehicles in stock. Go to richardcarr.com or come see the deals at Highway 6 in the Imperial exit, or call them and they will bring the test drive to you.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to Sikkim 365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Carr has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
All right, here we go. We have been able to get a lot of former great names in Baylor history. Earlier today, Brad Gable, the quarterback, joined us. On Friday, Frank Ditta. He'll join us, and, of course, a part of that 1980 Southwest Conference championship team, as was Doak Field. He was also a consensus all-conference player at Southwest Conference at linebacker as well. He joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I'm going to start with this. I still can't get over what you were telling me, that you're living in this beautiful area now. You're overlooking all this land, and you get in like a gator or something every morning, and you go chase rattlesnakes. Is that right? Is that what you're doing now, Doak?
Well, unfortunately, that's part of the job description. I live, as most people know that know anything about Burnett County and out towards Lake Buchanan. It's wild and woolly up here, and I've got a small place that backs up against what used to be a 20,000 acre ranch, and you got to get down on your hands and knees to crawl through it right now. Although some gentleman out of Fort Worth is making it into a hunting lodge deal, huge. But anyway, yeah, I average killing about 5 rattlesnakes a year, and I've got 3 dogs that are pretty good hunters, although they get bit a lot. But that just goes with the territory, you know.
So
sell
your dogs
the place. Sell it.
Doak, would you mind, this number I called you on is my cell phone number. When you do that, would you send me, before you kill them, would you send me pictures so that I can give them to Smokey?
Yeah.
It would just.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, that's Doak Field. This is Sick of 365 Radio.
Doak, the 79-80, that run that you guys had under Coach Taft was, for a long time, the best in Baylor history. What was it? When was it that you knew that you had something special in those years?
Well, really, it goes back even before that. The 1978 team was loaded, and we had a few injuries. Mainly, Gary Don Johnson was hurt in 1977, and he was, I guess he was a sophomore All-American nose guard, and we ran what was the 54 defense when I got there in 77. So Mike Singletary and I were backups initially, but then mid-season we had an open date before we played Arkansas, and we decided to go to a 46 defense. So because we didn't have enough defensive linemen, we didn't have anybody who could play nose like Gary Don was playing it, because he was playing at an ultra high level. But just the talent that was on those teams. I tell people I played with 35 NFL draft choices during my career at Baylor. And a lot of people don't realize 5 of them made All-Pro, and 1, as we know, made Hall of Fame. So there was a tremendous amount of talent. And probably the 78 team had more talent, raw talent, than any of the teams I've played on. But we really gelled. And just having guys that had started, there were a couple of us that had started some of our freshman year and then all of the sophomore year. So by the time the 79 season rolled around, we were rolling, and we should have won a few more games that year. We finished up 8-4, and beat Clemson in the Peach Bowl. But it was there was just a tremendous amount of raw talent, and it started gelling in 79 and 80. It was a multitude of things. It was both coaching and just the players and the leadership that we had, both from coaches and players.
Doak, I read a really nice quote from Ncaa on you, saying that, obviously Singletary was like the spearhead, but you were the field general. You were making a lot of the calls. What was that like? Were you making a lot of the calls for the defense as far as, what guys like him were doing? Kind of how did that go?
Well, yes. 1978, after my sophomore year, of which I was a starter all of those games, kind of got, and we had made the switch to the 46 defense by then. I called all of the defensive signals in 79 and 80. At that point, they didn't want Mike thinking too much about what to do, because they just wanted to turn him loose and let him go annihilate a running back. And it worked out pretty good, but it wasn't much of anything. Van McElroy was sitting back there at safety, and everybody knew what the signals were. It just, I was the one that, for good or bad, sometimes it was bad. If we weren't doing good, I had to go to the sidelines and talk to Corky Nelson, our defensive coordinator. And everybody knew that when I ran back out on the field that I was going to relay the instructions, rather explicit, X-rated instructions, about what we were trying to do, and so it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I called the signals for those last 2 years, and enjoyed the heck out of it.
Did Mike Singletary play on passing downs in college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So he just
He had a number of interceptions. I remember one against Ohio State in '78 that he had. He made a number of interceptions. So yeah, we didn't take him out unless there were times. when he would just be physically, he couldn't go anymore. You know, he was so tightly wound. You turn him loose, and 90% of the game or 95% of the game, he was full speed. But every once in a while, he would hit a tough spot, and we'd have to spell him for a while. But no, he played every down.
What was it like to shut out Texas to close out the year, win the championship? And because Baylor last year, as you know, closed out what was a phenomenal year, and what they did to Texas with Ellinger and what they did at home, they just squashed them. They just basically like a boa constrictor, squeezed the life out of them. What's it like to dominate a team like that on defense?
Well, it was extra special because, particularly for me, because I got into a real heated recruiting issue with the University of Texas when I came out of Burnett High School in '77. So for me, I played great every year we played UT, and we split with them. We won 78 and 80, but to shut them out like we did in 1980, they didn't have a first down until the third quarter. I don't think they got past midfield until the third quarter. And to shut them out, and I think it was just here recently, a couple of years ago, that somebody else may have shut them out, but it was the Baylor game of 1980. But that was always a big game, and Baylor has had UT's number from the '74 from the year that conference championship.
Mm-hmm.
Every year that we played in Waco, we were going to win one way or another, and that we held true my 2 years that I got to help out with that.
What was the deciding factor for you coming over going to Texas?
Cotton Davidson. I don't know if you know Coach Davidson.
Sure.
He recruited Central Texas, and I had a tremendous amount of respect, still do, of course. I love him to death. He's the reason I have my family and everything that I've got was because of my decision to go to Baylor. But more so than anything, it was Coach Davidson recruited me, and there was a time there where I was wavering and actually had switched my verbal commitment from Baylor to Texas, and then switched back to Baylor, and it was all because of sitting down and listening to Cotton again. And they also brought Corky Nelson up, and Coach Taft came to see the family too. So, but when you look at it, it was all Coach Davidson. He recruited a number of players on that 1980 team that were from Central Texas, who were good guys, and they'd tell you the same thing.
When you Google your name, a bunch comes up about North Carolina State's baseball field. How many people have gotten you confused with the NC State baseball field, and maybe you went there?
Well, there's been a few. More than that, though, you got to really go back. I used to have some personalized license plates, and when I was in the USFL, I was a year and with Andrew Mellentry, we were in Phoenix. We were the Arizona Wranglers, and the Phoenix Open was on that year, and we had tickets, and I had the personalized plates, and I'm driving down Camelback Drive or whatever, and this guy's all over me, behind me. Finally, okay, this is it. So I pull over, fully expecting we're fixing to go to town, and he says, "Hey, are you kin to Doak Walker?" Of course, people in Texas know Doak Walker was a 3-time All-American Heisman Trophy winner and played at SMU. He was real disappointed when I told him no, that I was not. But having that name, I was a running back and a linebacker both in high school, and there were some times when announcers over Marble Falls kept calling me Doak Walker all night long. I would like to think that maybe I ran a little bit like him, but that was not the case.
So I love hearing USFL stories. Do you have any wild ones? I know that was the team that eventually got merged with the Oklahoma team, the Arizona and Oklahoma. Were you there then, or were you already gone?
Yeah, I was I had gotten cut by the St. Louis Cardinals in 1982, and this was the year they had a strike, and I was pretty down. But I was in Austin Airport flying home after being cut, and not very good mood. And all of a sudden I get a PA announcement asking for me to go to the nearest phone. I pick up the phone, and they said, "Doak, hold on just a minute. I got Coach Allen on the line." And I didn't know, but as soon as I heard the voice, I knew it was George Allen, Redskin coach, and he was putting together the USFL. The Chicago Blitz was their first year in 1983 that I was on that team. And, of course, I eventually signed and went back to school and graduated from Baylor during that time. when during the strike in '82 and played '83 with Mike Singletary, and we had a couple of managers and trainers on those teams. So there was a small Baylor contingent, but the USFL was hilarious, but it was also dangerous. I mean, there were a lot of journeyman NFL players that were looking to get back into the league and were looking to make some more money. And this was kind of like the last chance for a guy to make it in professional football. At that point, the World League and all these other leagues, there wasn't anything else. So this was the Spring League, and Donald Trump was a part of this. You know, he had the New Jersey Generals and Herschel Walker, Doug Flutie, and those guys. But we practices were just brutal, and you know, I saw so much talent. You'd see these guys come through, and you'd heard about them on an NFL roster, but they had one issue or another, but here we were giving them a tryout and see if they could get their act together. And just the fights, during practice, we would scrimmage out when we were out in Scottsdale, we would scrimmage a couple of the other USFL teams pretty often, and that was just a bloodletting. But there are some hilarious stories, and just hearing some of the coaches that recruited some of these guys. I won't mention any names, but it was kind of like I saw an exact replica of North Dallas 40, if you'll remember that movie, the original, when the guy picks the girl up over his head and throws her into the swimming pool. You know, I roomed with a former All-Pro Washington Redskins, two Redskins that were older than me, and then a guy from Furman. And we had a big house with a pool that we were renting while we were playing out there, and the after game parties were normally would end up at our house, and I saw that take place one night. It was just the wildest thing to see this guy pick this girl up and throw her into the swim. I never knew why, and it was over just as fast as it happened. But I could go on, and some of them are not made for radio.
Now, I read the book by Jeff Pearlman, Football for a Buck, which was just fantastic, and it was a great read. But one of the things in that book was that George Allen, you kind of lucked out because George Allen pushed the rules. Like, he had like a secret. They had a salary cap, but George Allen kind of had his own rules, didn't he? To where he kind of paid everybody on the back end or something like that?
Bruce Allen was the general manager for him, his son. And I think Bruce became a general manager in the NFL for a while. I can't remember. But Bruce was the one that would get creative. George was definitely a player's coach, and I was the special teams leader. I backed up all three linebacker positions, but also was on the special team. And so I was what George called one of his generals. There were about 5 or 6 of us that would meet with him prior to practice or prior to any of our team meetings every morning. And you never knew what to expect because he would just out of the blue ask you a question, and if you didn't know the answer, boy, you were on the list. But it was not uncommon for us to be sitting there, and his secretary stick her head and says, "Coach, Ronald Reagan's on the phone. He wants to ask you something," or Dinah Shore. It ran the gamut, and he'd step out and talk to him, and then he'd come back in and lick his finger and tell us a little story about why he let it interrupt this meeting, because the guy was so focused. He had a driver that drove him to and from practice, and he'd be in the back of the it wasn't a limo, it was just a nice car. And Van Barberi, who was this great guy from California, was his kind of like his right-hand man, and Van would take care of him and make sure he got everywhere. But George would be in the back of the car drawing up plays, writing letters. It was so bad that one day Van got sick and Van Barbieri, his driver, couldn't get him home. Well, George didn't know how to get home. He had never paid attention to how it was that he drove home or how Van got him home every day. So he was that focused on winning and football, and he was the player's coach. He did whatever he thought would help us win, he would do for us.
Doak, the Walter Abercrombie, I believe he was asking me to ask you this. Did you start calling him Precious? He's begging me to find out why you started calling him Precious.
We can't. I can't tell you why. It just happened one summer. Walter came over to the little townhouse I had over there off of University Parks Drive across from the Farrell Center. And we would invite him over every once in a while. And I can't say any more than that. I can't believe he knew you guys were going to put that on the air.
Yeah, no, I did.
It's not a bad story at all.
No,
I think it was one of his girlfriends at the time, and I just happened to remember her name all these years. That was 40-something years ago, and I would just call him over the years. Back in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, hey, Precious, that was kind of my nickname for Walter. And for a while there, he'd forgotten about it and didn't know why I was calling him that. But last year or the year before, they honored the 79 Peach Bowl team last year at the UT game. And what was special, we were down in the end zone when John Lovett scored that touchdown down there. And it was just right in front of all of us former players. And to happen against the University of Texas, where we were just embarrassing them, was just real special. But no, Walter's a class act, and I'm going to stop talking about Precious right now.
No, okay. Thanks, Doak. We appreciate it. I know you also are part of Sikkim365.com, and we appreciate your time. Had a great career. Frank Detta will join us on Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun looking back with his career as well. We appreciate your time today.
You bet. Enjoyed it. Thanks,
That's
guys.
Doak Field. He's living the dream. Enjoyed it. Was a heck of a player on a team that was very, very good. They were 10-2. They won the conference by 3 full games. Lost to San Jose State in a weird game in a non-conference loss, and then lost to Alabama 30-2 in the Cotton Bowl. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. If you are a fan of craft beer, they've got a very wide selection. In fact, on their website, it's like 20 lines of the different ones they offer. Fantastic stuff. They've got the convenient, safe drive-through window. You just go on, tell them what you want, pay, and ride. And then, they've got the clean in-store. So if you're not sure what you want and you want to go in and look around and get some suggestions, their staff is great. They've helped me out, especially with wine. A couple times I've gone to a party to get wine. I don't really know what to get because I'm not a wine guy. I just know that there's colors. And so I know that here's what to pair. They've done that for me a couple times. It's great. They're fantastic. Their staff is always ready to answer questions, and they're wonderful in whatever you need them to do, whether it's wine, beer, or spirits. They've got you covered. Also have balconies in stock, all the latest. Like they have the latest release all the time. Whenever it comes out, they're one of the first people to get it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street.
Engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary? Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
How often have you said it's time to get in shape? Every day, every week, every month, maybe for as long as you can remember? How about starting today? I promise if you'll just join Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness now, you'll thank me later. Hi, this is David Smoke, offering a variety of 40 group exercise classes every single week, including boot camp on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:15, plus spin, body shaping, Pilates, yoga, and bar. And there's a free kids club as well. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness open Monday through Thursday, 5 to 10, Friday, 5 to 8, Saturday and Sunday, 7 to 7, and personal trainers, Christy London and Randall Court. World-class tennis facility with pros Britt Coleman and Joe Rosa with lessons, camps, and special events. Spacious and clean workout rooms, locker room for men and women, both with a whirlpool and sauna, and now there's touchless bottle filling stations. No intimidation, tremendous camaraderie, an entirely new atmosphere, and yes, you can do this, but you have to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Play action here for Mon. Moving to his right. Looking deep. Got a receiver. It's caught. Chapman touchdown.
This segment with Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com is sponsored by Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. With over 40 group exercise classes Monday through Sunday on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour, Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. There's just breaking news yet again in the Southeastern Conference and also college football. Nick Saban and A.D. Bill Byrne of Alabama. No, is it Byrne? Yeah, Byrne of Alabama. Greg Byrne. Have both tested positive for COVID. And Saban had to leave work immediately. Steve Sarkisian will oversee game preparation at this time. Alabama, Georgia, a huge matchup on Saturday. Olin, let's get to how desperate, how important, how massive was that win for Jimbo Fisher and the message he's trying to get at A&M?
Well, I think it was a really big win. I think that it was important. He's been talking about changing the culture since he got here. Maybe that's one of those cornerstone victories where you change the culture. We'll see, but at the very least, I guess it gets the media off his back about saying, well, you haven't won a big game, even though, I thought their wins over Kentucky and LSU a couple of years ago were big. But, yeah, when you beat a team in the top 5, that's a big deal.
Olin, I know a lot's been made about. The offense was really great. A lot's been made about the defense and the yards per play they're giving up. Is that more of a function of what the defense will be, or do you think that that's just because they played Bama and Florida in back-to-back weeks?
Yeah, that's a great question, and who knows? It's probably somewhere a little of both. I think Alabama and Florida's offenses are going to make a lot of defenses look bad. But that said, A&M has to play better. I think they can, but I do think that there's issues in the secondary, and I wouldn't be surprised if those issues continue, that they start looking at maybe giving some other guys a chance. But I do think the defense can represent itself a little bit better when they play teams that maybe aren't quite as dynamic.
Olin, obviously terrible news on Caleb Chapman after the fantastic catch that helped propel them to that victory. How does that – just your thoughts on the injury, I guess, first of all, and how much he matters to that team. How does that shuffle things at all?
Well, first of all, he's the guy we'd heard about last year that's so impressive, and then he didn't play. And so you're wondering, well, are we just hearing things that just aren't true? But then he goes out. He played well in the first game. Like Vanderbilt had a touchdown. And then he had that huge game against Florida, and like you mentioned, he has the game-tying touchdown, and then tears an ACL. You know, gosh, what kind of luck? And A&M's had all kinds of bad luck losing receivers. You know, their top, the three guys that were supposed to be starters coming into the season, receiver, are all now out. So they've been shuffling. I wouldn't be surprised. Fisher hasn't said he's going to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if I see Ncaa Smith back at receiver. They, got the Demond Demas kid, who was the top-rated receiver in the country. He's only played a little bit here and there. Maybe they're going to give him a more of a look. Dalen Wright, who's I think he's a redshirt freshman that was pretty highly touted coming in a couple of years ago. Maybe they'll give him a look. Now against Alabama, they didn't start Chapman. They started Cam Brown and Chase Lane and Jalen Preston. So maybe they'll just go back to that group. But I wouldn't be surprised if they start really trying to expedite the process of getting a guy like Demond Demas in the lineup.
Oh, and I mentioned what it meant to Jimbo Fisher, A&M's program. How much did that mean to Kellen Mond and his legacy? I know there's many games to go. There's more games they have to win. And I know he's kind of been a lightning rod of a figure. How much was that for him, in your opinion?
Well, I think I don't know if it changed a lot of opinions, but I think it raised enough eyebrows where people are, some of his biggest critics are willing to say, okay, what else are you going to show us? Maybe we were hasty. But, there were those that were criticizing for the touchdown pass in which Chapman got hurt and saying, well, if he had put it out a little bit further,
come on,
he wouldn't have gotten hurt. Yeah, I mean, there's that. So, like you said, he is a lightning rod. Some people really like him, some don't. I'll say this: if he continues to play at a level approaching what he showed against Florida, then I think he'll really change a lot of minds about him.
Well, I mean, this is really, if you look back at what Jimbo Fisher has done with quarterbacks that, outside of, Jameis Winston, who's a, first year, but most of the guys, when they are veterans in the system, it's when they really explode.
Yeah. And Jameis was a redshirt freshman, so he'd been in the system 2 years. I think part of it is that, look, Kellen could have played better last year, no doubt about it. But part of it was the offensive line was really banged up and had its issues too. And the O-line played great against Florida State. Against Florida. And so that helped out. So I think there's a lot. It's not just Kellen. There's a lot of other things that went into it. But Kellen played his best ball. And Jimbo Fisher had told us all through the August and even before that Kellen was making these giant strides and all this. And then we didn't play well against Vanderbilt. We're saying, yeah, right. He actually, if you go back and look, he had a solid game against Alabama. Had one, maybe two really bad passes, but that played really well. And then, he played so well against Florida. So maybe it's just what Jimbo was seeing and telling us about was just coming to fruition.
So, Olin, Mississippi State, Mike Leach versus A&M, Costello there quarterback, and what a tale of, the Mike Leach tale, right? They had the big victory early on, and then last week they scored 2 points. So what are you expecting this weekend? And from what you know about the Bulldogs, how do you see A&M matching up?
Yeah, I think A&M matches up pretty well, and they look like the better team. The problem is the last 3 times I've gone to Starkville, I was covering what looked like the better team, and they always got beat. So A&M never should go into Starkville expecting anything but hate the pun, dogfight. And they never should ever expect anything to come easy against Mike Leach because their history with him too. So, you might remember a couple of years ago, A&M was number 4 in the first college football playoff, and Mississippi State was, I think, 4 and 6 or something like that, and they went and lost. So I would think for the average Aggie that's really paying attention, they should be scared to death, because if A&M has any sort of hangover about a big win over Florida, they could really get in trouble fast in Starkville.
No question. Hey, thanks a lot. We appreciate it, Olin. Appreciate your time. Mississippi State, Texas A&M this weekend. So you have Florida and LSU has been canceled. Is it Vanderbilt, Missouri? Is that the other game?
Well, let me tell you. So That's all gone on now, these 2-game cancellations. You just had the news about Nick Saban and Alabama AD Greg Byrne. And I didn't see this until just a little while ago, but apparently Lane Kiffin has come out and said Ole Miss is not dealing with an outbreak. And they are expected to play.
And who did they play?
This weekend.
Alabama.
So there you go. I mean, you know what? Oklahoma State fans, until they have an outbreak of their own, they're going to have their little fun or whatever on Baylor. But since that Baylor news dropped and everybody did their ha-ha, ha-ha, it's now turned into like half the SEC is wiped out potentially for this weekend. And in some cases, like LSU, Florida for sure. So, that's coronavirus, man. And, I said it, I think yesterday, like laugh now, but, you're not going to be laughing when it turns around and bites you because odds are it probably will at some point or another.
You're not immune to it just because you don't want it to happen.
Right. Other college football, you're absolutely right, Paul. One other college football note that's of Big 12 interest, Texas Tech head coach Matt Wells says Henry Colombi will start at quarterback as Texas Tech takes on West Virginia next week. So the Alan Bowman era, which has been quite shaky, looks like it might be coming to an end. Colombi came in last week and actually played pretty okay. Definitely played better than Bowman did. So that's a note of interest.
Yeah, that's interesting because he put up some monster numbers last year, and you always wondered what they'd do had he stayed. But he can't stay healthy, and now,
makes bad decisions.
He did well against Texas, and that was just a bizarre game the way that finished. All right, so since Baylor's news Sunday, Florida has now had a outbreak. Mississippi now appears to have one. LSU, Florida canceled. Alabama's Nick Saban and also Greg Byrne have COVID. And now that game might be in jeopardy. And on top of that, there's Vanderbilt, Missouri that has theirs. It's a matter of if you think it's not you, it's about to be you. And you hope not. I hope that everyone is able to avoid this. But it's just this is the latest flare-up, and then next week there'll be another one. And so it's not someone being irresponsible. There might be some of that at times, players not being smart, whatever, but it's happening no matter what. When we come back, John Machota, theathletic.com, and the Cowboys in their week, the first week without Dak. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Ideal MRI, premium and quality MRIs. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable, and that is if you're a patient ideal. On average, an MRI can cost over $1,100. Every one of theirs will be $497 or less every time at idealmri.com, located in the Central Texas Marketplace. $497 or less instead of what is on average $1,100 for an MRI. An MRI used to be time-consuming, very expensive, hours at the imaging center, wait up to months before you could get in to get an appointment and get an MRI. An Ideal MRI will provide a convenient, luxurious experience, state-of-the-art GE MRI suite. I've been in it. It's amazing. And your scan will be read by board-certified subspecialist, and you'll get a call and also let them explain exactly what they have found. It will never cost more than $497. Some of the patients, great experience, made you feel comfortable. I could have written that because I've been there. Been through that, the check-in to the MRI, to the post. It's fantastic. Excellent experience. Staff, procedures, smooth interactions. That's right. Efficient, kind, prompt. That's right. All of those are some of what you see and said and written in reviews on IdealMRI.com. Dr. Rob Maxey and IdealMRI.com, the title sponsor of Sikkim 365 Radio.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingram at the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Ncaa Group Insurance Agency. With the Ncaa Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Ncaa Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Ncaa Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Waco's newest gym, Halo Athletic Center, 5725 Bagby Avenue, right behind Region 12 and across the highway from the Central Texas Marketplace, where motivation, inspiration, and hard work are the driving force. State-of-the-art equipment, indoor and outdoor track, locker rooms, showers, yoga and bar classes by Duality Yoga, bod pod potty composition analysis, and registered dietitians, all under one roof where we rise above. Come join the Halo Athletic Center and be a part of the change, your change.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Employee pricing is back at Allen Samuels, exclusively on the king of minivans, the new 2020 Chrysler Pacifica. Get employee pricing plus financing as low as 0% or employee pricing and up to $4,250 in cash. You get Pacifica loaded up with style, comfort, and options all in one gorgeous minivan. Employee pricing with special financing or cash. Choices are always great at your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
For a second Cowboy victory.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments, with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go, 5 o'clock hour, bottom of the hour football. Bob will help us kind of break down some things, X's and O's in college football, what he's seen as we go through the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season and move into the next part of the year. And we're now joined by John Machota, theathletic.com, and covering the Cowboys. And, man, all of a sudden, John, whatever you were reporting about what didn't look good and the Giants, all of a sudden your entire mode of what you had to cover, a game and then the story of Dak Prescott. How was that to kind of juggle with both of those things going on?
Well, it was shocking. I mean, I was stunned. I couldn't even tell you what the next probably 10 plays were in that game. I honestly don't remember. I had to watch the game over again that night because I honestly don't remember Andy Dalton getting sacked on the first play in. I remember the Zeke touchdown, but I was busy scrambling, trying to, you're looking all over the internet for different things. You're trying to write stuff. You're trying to post stuff to your website, doing all this stuff at once. And it just, the whole thing about it that will always stand out to me is just the fact of how, a lot of times guys will hurt. Let's say, like, heck, right before that, Tristan Hill gets hurt, and it's like, yeah, it looks bad, the cart comes out, but you really don't know until the next day. But with this, you knew right away. Like, not only is his season done, but those are the type of injuries that can have a significant impact on the rest of your career, and it's just amazing when you think of that all coming together at, like, in this moment when Tony Romo's calling the game, Jason Garrett's a few feet away on the opposite sideline. The whole thing was just really odd how it all went. And it was on a play that, we've seen Dak do plenty of times before. He's never missed a start. And we're talking about a guy that was running like 15 times a game at Mississippi State, playing against SEC, opponents. And he just, we look at him and think that he's like indestructible because he's built like a linebacker playing quarterback. But it's just like all in that moment, just all these things just kind of go through your mind. You're just like, I can't believe it. And then you see him and he's in tears, and you see all the players coming off the bench come over there, and you just don't see that a lot in any sport. I don't know. It was wild. And, so anyway, later on that day, I went back and watched the rest of the game, but it was, it's a moment I won't forget anytime soon. That's for sure.
All right, John, let's fast forward to March when the Cowboys have to make a decision on his contract. What do you think that they will ultimately do when it comes down to Dak and money?
Well, I think that right now, I would say that the most likely scenario for me would be, I think that they are going to do another year of the franchise tag, because I think that they want to see how he's rehabbing, how he's coming along. And I just don't see them getting a new deal done as soon as they can start negotiating in January. I think it's going to take some time. He's still going to be rehabbing. Jerry Jones said the other day, they're thinking he'll be back to full strength at maybe end of April, early May. I think they're going to I think they'll put the tag on. I'm not saying necessarily he'll play next season under that tag, but I think that they'll put the tag on him to protect it, just like they did this. Well, I don't think that's really protecting him, but protecting themselves, and just in case, and then they'll go from there. But I don't rule out him having to play under the tag for a second straight year next year. But who knows? This injury could have changed things from both teams, both sides. Maybe. From Dak's side, they're willing to take a little bit less to just get the deal done. Maybe the Cowboys are willing to cave from the 5 years to maybe only the 4. I don't know. There's still just a lot of uncertainty. We got to see, how Andy Dalton plays the rest of the season now, see how the team finishes out. There's still some cards to be played here, but he's got it. First of all, in the immediate, he can't get one of those infections the way that Alex Smith did, and that's why it was so important for him to have that surgery right away. He was out of surgery, and while most of us were still at the game, reporting after the game was over. So the chance of infection rise up pretty significantly when the bone comes out of the skin like that. And so while the surgery went well, you don't know if there's an infection there for a few days. We just don't know that part of it yet. That's what happened with Alex Smith. So. As long as he's able to avoid anything like that, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to come back from just because you just know the type of competitor he is. Like, he's not going to, whatever the timetable is, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back earlier from it, as long as he doesn't, suffer any type of major complications.
John, this is random, but how would you rank the Cowboys' top 3 wide receivers through this season?
Yeah, that is good. That's tough because at different moments, you could argue either any one of the 3 are number 1. For me, I'm putting CeeDee Lamb at number 1. He's been very sure-handed. He's done a variety of things that you certainly, if I didn't watch the last 5 years of football and all of a sudden this season was the first season I watched, I never would have thought that he played in college last year. And he's their leading receiver right now, so I'll go with him. But there's been stretches this season where Amari Cooper certainly was their number 1, and then you probably don't win that Giants game without Michael Gallup making some of those free catches. That's the thing about Gallup. It's like you kind of forget about him, and then he just makes some of the biggest plays late in games. And so I wouldn't have any problem with anybody arguing him either. But for me right now, I'd say it goes Lamb, Cooper, and then Gallup.
Yeah, Michael Gallup just makes big plays. It's kind of like Alvin Harper. He makes the big plays, and obviously perhaps he does because of who else is on the field. But that catch he made, an inch, a foot.
2 catches in a row.
And even some of the comebacks, and even the comebacks that ended, that they didn't win. He's made the game against Seattle, right?
Mm-hmm.
The defensive offensive pass interference would have been another opportunity, even though he didn't make the catch. He was there. John, the way that this now has turned, Andy Dalton's a 10-year pro. There's nothing he's going to see that he hasn't seen. He's not Dak, but he's also not my good Cooper Rush.
Mm-hmm.
He's better, much better than that. Is this now a team that changes who they are and how they protect the defense because Dak's not there, or do they just keep winging it like normal?
No, I mean, I think it'll depend game to game on what they do. I mean, I think in this game coming up Monday night against the Cardinals and against an offensive attack that can score a lot of points and has a lot of weapons too, I would say I could see it being another shootout. But I do believe that they're going to try and run the ball even more early on because I don't think they want their defense out there running around with Andy Isabella and DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. So, and then not to mention their defensive line trying to have to contain Kyler Murray running all over the place. So, yeah, I would think that you'll see them running a little bit more with Andy Dalton now under center. And I think one of the big reasons why you got to do that also, it's not just the defense, but it's also the fact that, you're going forward now with 2 undrafted free agents as your right and left tackle. I mean, that's the part where, it's going to hurt them probably the most, is that Dak's been so good at extending plays when things break down. And not to say that Andy Dalton can't do that. He obviously can, but it's a tough situation because their offensive line is so banged up. And so I think because of that, I think early on what you're going to see is you're going to see them handing the ball off more to Zeke. And I think with Dalton, depending on what the pass rush looks like from the Cardinals, I think you're going to see him getting the ball out of his hands a lot quicker. Maybe something more like what we saw from Jared Goff in that Week 1 game against the Cowboys, where there's a lot of short throws, things like that, and screens and stuff to get the ball out of his hands quick and then kind of find out where they are there. But it's going to be interesting to see because, he came into that game obviously not thinking he was going to play in that game, and he goes 9 of 11. If you can just give him a little bit of time, he's a good enough quarterback with those weapons that he can definitely move that offense around and help them win some games. I mean, with him right now, looking at the rest of their schedule, I still think that they could win 7 or 8 games, and that might be enough to win the division.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think they're going to do much in the playoffs, but that is a possibility, whereas to your point about Cooper Rush, they might only win 2 or 3 games if they and then turn to Cooper Rush if it would have been like the last 3 years. So, yeah, they're in an interesting spot here because Dalton can definitely win them games. He's good enough to be a starter in this league.
Are you surprised that they haven't made a move to essentially bring in another big person like a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, a veteran?
I'm not. And the only reason why is just because just how often Jerry's talked about when he's been asked about Earl Thomas and talked about how he doesn't want to do anything that's going to have any major impact on their salary because they already have so many players that they've paid or made them amongst the highest paid at their positions. And then he's got to have all that money cleared out so that they can either put the franchise tag on Dak or sign him to a long-term deal. And so they have to have all that money cleared going forward in a year that the cap is expected to come down. And so Dak Prescott is one of the big reasons why they won't be making any significant moves to the trade deadline or anything like that, because for one, you can't bring on any other big salaries because you have to have enough space. That's why they already this year early on, they started restructuring those contracts and moving money around with Zach Martin and some other players because they need to have that money to be able to sign Dak. And the other part of why it's going to impact Dak too is because what would you use to trade with? There's not any like what are teams going to come calling for on the Cowboys? They're going to come. The only position that they're loaded at is wide receiver, and they're not trading CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, or Michael Gallup. And so if you're not trading that, what are you giving up? You're giving up draft picks. This team can't afford to give up any of their draft picks. I don't care how many compensatory picks they have coming up. They need all of them because after they pay Dak, they're not going to have that much salary cap space. So to fill out the rest of their roster, they're going to need as many draft picks as possible. That's where the rest of this roster is going to have to get better is through the draft. And so I don't see it happen. I don't see them making any more moves. I really don't.
So, John, what are your expectations for this matchup? I mean, obviously, this Cardinals offense, you laid it out earlier, has a lot of weapons, and Kyler Murray playing in AT&T Stadium. What do you think about this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very high scoring. Which no surprise, it's how all Cowboys games have been this season. And so, I think it's a shootout. I think it's very entertaining. Kyler Murray's never lost at AT&T Stadium in high school and then in college when he played there. So That's obviously intriguing. Cliff Kingsbury, a guy that's obviously from the state, and he's coming back to coach against a team he grew up watching. So there's no shortage of storylines here. But with them playing at home and Andy Dalton getting a full week of practice with these receivers, Chandler Jones, the standout pass rusher for the Cardinals, ruled out for the rest of the season. That obviously helps the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys pull it out late, but I do think it's going to be a high-scoring shootout that isn't decided until the final minutes.
The question is, will they be down 17-3 and have to come back and win it? And then there's the Chandler Jones injury, and I saw what you play. This guy's a hell of a player. I know he had 1 sack this year, but he is a dynamic part of what Arizona does with their defense. And Dallas, it's not like Dallas is like, oh, we got lucky with the injury, but they've had their own. But that's a name. If you could pick a player on Arizona's defense and say we can't lose him, would he be the name?
Yes. Yeah, I would think so. Right, John?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because one guy for me that has kind of surprised me, and I know, Paul, you'll be very familiar with this guy. I thought Isaiah Simmons, the kid from Clemson, was going to have a way bigger impact immediately than he's had up to this point. I just think he's like the perfect defender for today's NFL because he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. He can play some safety, he can play some linebacker. He did everything at Clemson. He was an absolute freak, and he hasn't really done much for the Cardinals. So yeah, I mean, and then with Chandler Jones going, I mean, they still have Patrick Peterson. I know he's obviously getting older, but he's an 8-time Pro Bowler. So, I mean, there are some pieces over there on their defense, but yeah, Chandler Jones for sure is the guy that, I mean, he gets after the quarterback. He's the one that can wreck a game for you, even though he only did have 1 sack so far this season. But yeah, his resume is incredible. And it's amazing too, thinking of Chandler Jones, the fact that I think 2015 was his last year with New England, and he had a double-digit sack season, and New England let him go, and he signs with the Cardinals, and he just keeps doing what he's doing. And it's like, and New England's not even fazed by it. They just keep rolling. It's like they can afford to lose a guy like that. And it's just crazy to think that. But he would be the guy.
Am I right in saying, guys, that Kingsbury's last game as head coach at Tech was at AT&T Stadium, and they lost to Baylor?
Lost to Baylor, and he got fired. Yeah, it was in a game that vaulted Baylor into the postseason, right?
Yeah.
And that was his last game. I don't think has he been back since he's.
I don't see why he would have. Yeah. Cardinals
didn't play last year. Yeah.
Okay.
Just random. That's just random thought I had.
Unless he just wanted to go.
Yeah, he might have visited a few
Kyler
times.
Murray does bring up Andy Dalton. Think about this: the 2 starting quarterbacks, and there are, what I think are maybe a dozen in the NFL. Both played high school football in Texas. Mm-hmm. Katie for Dalton, obviously with Kyler Murray and Allen, and there's others. Nick Foles. We know his story, right?
Drew Brees.
Brees, we know his story. It's like everywhere you look, it seems like there's a dozen, maybe out of the 32 that might be starting quarterbacks, and perhaps it's not that much at some point or another. John, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Another perhaps shootout that he has to cover on Sunday. John Machota with us, theathletic.com, on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock on Sikkim 365 Radio. This Nick Saban story, and I just put up this note that, Baylor and what happened Sunday evening. And since that time, what has happened, and we don't even know what might happen by the end of the night.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Ole Miss. Who mentioned Ole Miss?
I
Greg,
did.
what's the story there with Lane Kiffin? What does he say?
Lane Kiffin says they've got an outbreak.
Okay.
Lane Kiffin is saying that they have an outbreak, and somebody actually in a response tried to actually tie it together that Vanderbilt might have been the starting point, because if you look at it was like they played A&M. Here, I'll try to find it, but they had played A&M, and then the following week there was, a cancellation. I did bookmark it, so it shouldn't take me but a second.
I saw somebody. Okay.
Here we go. So Vandy played A&M. A week later, Vanderbilt had multiple players out because of COVID. A&M then plays Bama and Florida. Florida now has players out, and Nick Saban has tested positive. Then Bama plays Ole Miss. Ole Miss now has players test positive. So he basically backtracked it to the 2 to 14-day period. Vandy could have been the starting point. And, put in that what you want to.
Why doesn't A&M have anything?
A&M's had some. I don't know. I mean, it's not a perfect example, but, I mean, it would at least start to make some sense as far as the number of cases that are going around in the SEC right now.
What is the case that we know of is Florida was on a road trip.
Yeah.
Baylor was on a road trip. Alabama was at home.
Not against Ole Miss, they weren't.
No, they were on a road trip. And those are some things. And Mac Rhodes, even before they left for the game against West Virginia, discussed so many of the things. And that's something you learn from this. This is part of what, now we learn.
Planes, I mean, if you're on a plane,
but let's
it's
be
just-
honest.
Yeah.
The thing with who was it that had sniffles? Florida?
Yeah.
Players that got on the plane or others in the party and the travel party, we're talking about others a part of the football program. If you got on the plane with allergies or sniffles or whatever, you may have tested negative. And then with Baylor, really, it was a false negative. That's like throwing a dart into a haystack. You don't know what's going on there. And the next thing you know, you have 28 football players and 14 members of the staff.
I would think it's almost like 50-50. What happened with Baylor was somebody kicked back, an asymptomatic person kicked back a false negative and
went on the trip.
They didn't know.
It slowly creeped into everybody.
Or it's something dumb like, I've been sneezing.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah. No,
Have you been on planet Earth in 2020?
Nick Saban, though, isn't he doesn't he walk on water? And I love the guy.
He's the college football pope.
This is kind of listen. All the other stories that get stories. Nick Saban testing positive will be monstrous, and now Steve Sarkisian, who's a comeback story, will now coach against Kirby Smart in the biggest game up to date, maybe in college football, with what is it, number 2 against number 3 or whatever it might be in the SEC. All right, coming up next. Football Bob. There's no Baylor game to break down. There's no Baylor game to prep for, but there's plenty to get his feedback on, and a lot of you love him. The feedback when we had him on last week that night and the next day was fabulous. Football Bob next on Sikkim 365 Radio. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. First of all, AJ is someone, when I went over to the dealership and I was looking, my Tahoe had nearly 400,000 miles. I loved it. It was kind of like, it wasn't, it was kind of like part of the family. And then finally I just got frustrated with it. And I went to go see AJ, and he starts to show me these other cars, and SUVs that I might be interested in. And then all of a sudden I asked him about this other car I saw in the distance with a price tag on it. And I said, that looks pretty nice. And he did his job. He didn't say, oh, no, that's the best car. He took me over there. We looked around. Next thing you know, it was by the next day, I had test-driven the car, and I was ready to go. I'm not one of those that shops around too much. I'm pretty much, I walk in the door, I know that's what I want, that's what I want, that's what I want. But when it comes to buying a car, you got to be pretty selective and smart. And AJ helped me through the entire the buying experience. And even until this day, even now, will text me on occasion, hey, how's everything going? He could have taken my money, gotten his commission, and said, forget about it. No, he's absolutely helping me even well after the fact when I bought that car in May. Alan Samuels has great opportunities to Ram Power Days, 2020 Ram Lone Star Crew Cab, Hemi or EcoDiesel, 0% financing for 72 months, no payments for 90 days, or you can choose $9,250 in cash and incentives. Also, if you want the Jeep Adventure Days, and right now employee pricing for all, and the 2020 Gladiator Sport, no payments for 90 days, the 2020 Jeep Renegade, tougher than nails, 0% for 72 months, no payments for 90 days, or you can get up to $6,250 in cash in subprime offers. All you have to do is ask. Go by the dealership. You can go online, AlanSamuelsDCJ.com. If you don't want to go to the dealership, they'll help you with the test drive and eventually bring the car to you to help you find out what you want or what you like. That's the way the experience should be at Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340, east of 84 in Waco.
Have you tried a do-it-yourself program to lose weight? You may not know that in a typical do-it-yourself program, a quarter of the weight you lose is due to muscle breakdown and loss. With COVID harming obese and overweight patients, being at ideal body weight is more important now than ever. Over 30 physicians in Central Texas, tired of seeing patients fail at losing weight themselves, opened Muscle-Wise Nutrition. This is a coach-managed weight loss program that targets fat and spares muscle. The 4 Muscle-Wise locations have taken off over 19,000 pounds from Texas dieters in the last few years. The combination of coaching and weekly body composition analysis to target the fat loss are the keys to success. The coaches teach you how to eat and live a healthy lifestyle. Email Sikkim365@musclewisenutrition.com today, and the coaches will contact you about their free educational seminars. Do not wait. Email today and start MuscleWise at Sikkim365@musclewisenutrition.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Ncaa Group Insurance Agency. With the Ncaa Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Ncaa Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Ncaa Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's the heat of the summer, but the real heat is what you're cooking on the grill, smoker, or in the oven. So Waco Custom Marketplace can be your go-to playmaker for summertime grilling. You can't go eat anywhere else? Be your own chef with custom-ordered and cut ribeyes, sirloins, fillets, New York strips with a focus on high-quality beef at a competitive price. Waco Custom Marketplace also has fresh deli cuts with sliced turkey, ham, pepperoni, or corned beef. Waco Custom Marketplace also your home for the freshest seafood in town. Salmon, shrimp, mahi-mahi, great priced chicken products, whole birds, tenders, chicken breast, and wings. Waco Custom Marketplace with smoked items unique to Waco, house-made bacon, summer sausage, boudin, hot links, and German sausage. Every seasoning for every occasion, grilling, baking, or frying. Your hometown grocery store with canned goods, pasta, fresh baked bread, buns, chips, sauce, condiments to pickles, charcoal and lighter fluid, cold beer and wine, best kolaches in Waco, mouth-watering cinnamon rolls, and here for the community every single day, helping you avoid the long lines in crowded stores, serving quality products to the Waco community. Go online for the weekly value boxes. Family owned and operated Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lakeshore Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at TexasTrialLawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
If you or a loved one or friend has been arrested and you can't afford bail, trust Terry and Chase Chapman at Chapman's Bail Bonds, covering Waco and McLennan County for over 25 years. Chapman's can bail you out anywhere with experienced, knowledgeable local agents who are committed to serving you professionally, respectfully, and with the highest integrity. Chapman's understands your privacy is important. Your freedom can be secured fast when you use Chapman's Bail Bonds. Open 24 hours a day. Payment arrangements available. Call Chapman's Bail Bonds. When you need help, 254-754-1603. When you ring, we'll spring.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
By the way, I want to say hi to our good friend David Willis, the Willis Law Firm. They sponsor the chat room. Armstrong was on there to help answer a technical question earlier today about some of the things we do with graphics. I get on there quite a bit. Appreciate David Willis and the Willis Law Firm in the chat room in the premium section of Sikkim 365 Radio. We're now joined by Football Bob, Gary Comer. That's who he is. He's a former coach and does a great job, has a huge cult following. And the reaction to last week's segment when he was on our show, breaking down things Baylor or not, was fantastic. So has this been a week where you're like, okay, wait a minute, Baylor hasn't played, they're not about to play. Does this kind of make you want to just like bite your fingernails or what? What do you have going on, Gary?
Absolutely. I mean, you're used to going week in and week out, and all of a sudden now there's not been any video to analyze, and it's been a kind of withdrawal thing for me.
So which video have you started breaking down other teams?
Well, we did. I started looking at the other games and just tried to get an idea about what Baylor could expect in the future and get an idea about the relative strength of the team.
Gary, what did you think of Oklahoma and Texas last week? I guess that's just, you could go any direction with that. But Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler, what are your thoughts? And defensively, there's obviously some issues, but they still managed to pull that game out.
Well, I think that it was a great game. I really enjoyed that game. It was a lot of fun to watch both of those teams play. I think Spencer Rattler is dynamic, definitely a young player, and is prone to make a few mistakes. He's not as physically strong as he's going to be as he matures, and so that factor in not making him quite as effective as he might be as a runner. I was very impressed with some throws. The throws were just absolutely great, and then you would always see him make a couple of other throws that were not quite so great.
All right, so you've coached, you've had to make decisions at quarterback and things like that. There's obviously an interest in Tanner Mordecai, young man who's a phenomenal young man, not to mention he was a really good quarterback from Midway. You know his story, how good he is, but Rattler's obviously the guy at Oklahoma. What did it say that Lincoln Riley was able to sit Rattler down, bring Tanner in, who didn't mess anything up? He had the one ball that kind of, you hit the turf. It looked like he lost control of it, but they recovered. What does that do? What's the risk there, and then what's the reward there? Because Rattler obviously responded well.
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head as far as what happened was that Rattler responded well. The risk is that you take him out and he thinks, oh, my gosh, everything's gone to, heck, and I don't know what I'm going to do now. And so he goes back in and he shoots himself in the foot. Well, that didn't happen. Spencer Rattler responded like a champion. He did a great job of coming back in, and he was a totally different guy. And I think that having another guy there is a real big boost for Oklahoma, that you got a guy there that is just so solid, and he always has been. So I think that right now Oklahoma feels pretty good about their quarterback situation, or as good as you can feel with a freshman quarterback.
Okay, I'm 0 for 2 on this question because I'm trying to write a column about how Tom Herman would be better served to finally trust a running back. And both coaches I've asked, or people I've asked, S11 and Phil Bennett, think I'm wrong. And I'm willing to accept that I would be wrong, but I'm hoping I have one person who agrees with me. Would Tom Herman be better served if less of the running game ran through Sam Ehlinger and they could spread the ball around to playmaking running backs?
Sam Ehlinger is a great running back for a quarterback. He's very dynamic, and he's tough to bring down. He's a big dude. I really think that you have a point in that Texas needs to diversify their running game. And the fact that Ehlinger carries so much of a load and the running backs carry so little of a load, I think it limits their offense to a degree. I think that, you can get a good pass rush. You can have a real good guy running the spy on Ehlinger from the linebacker level, and all of a sudden they have a hard time moving the football. I think that happened a little bit in that game with Oklahoma.
What do you think of just the Big 12 as a whole from what you've seen? Oklahoma State's obviously up there right now. Iowa State's up. I mean, who to you is playing the best football right now? Who to you looks like the team that you would feel the most confidence in, putting your backing into, towards the end of the season?
Well, I'd have to say that Oklahoma State has probably been the one that I feel like is playing as consistently as anybody. But I think that it's open to anybody that wants to go and start playing well. I mean, all the way up and down the league, it's going to be whoever starts playing well week in, week out. They all have the ability to win. But right now, it's just been kind of a crapshoot as far as who's going to be successful. I think, Iowa State, Oklahoma State probably at the top. But you know what? Kansas State's victories, I think anybody would take those victories over who they've beaten so far. Mm-hmm. And even though they lost their quarterback, they're still going to be a good team. They're getting better safety play than they've had since I've been watching them. I hadn't seen Kansas State have as good a safety play as they're having right now ever. And so you got to consider them. And then, of course, Texas, Oklahoma. And I think that there's an argument to be made. Maybe I'm getting a little bit of my green and gold blood going. But I think there's an argument to be made that if the Baylor offensive line plays up to their ability level, that probably their defense is playing as good, if not better, than anybody in the conference.
You know what I thought? I watched Kansas State. I know they lost their quarterback, and they got Howard now that will run the ship, and I'm not sure what he can do, but he was thrown into the fire.
Tell you what, Deuce Vaughn's pretty good little player.
22 is fantastic, the kid from Cedar Ridge. I'll tell you what I saw, Coach. I saw Kansas State look like Bill Snyder. I thought that's, the solid special teams. I don't have the stats of the punt yardage or cover, but I saw their defense. It just seemed like the secondary. You mentioned the safeties, and thanks for doing that, because I wrote down a note. They had a kid that had a pick that stepped in, and it just looked like who they were. I'm not saying they are, but it just kind of seemed like they had that Bill Snyder-type mentality on defense.
Well, I've always thought, since Art Briles came to Baylor, I've always thought that you beat Kansas State by beating their safeties. And you just put them against the inside receiver one-on-one, and you just throw it to those guys all night long, and they couldn't do anything about it. Well, this year I think they can do something about it. I've been impressed.
So, are the SEC defenses falling off of a cliff, or are the likes of, Lane Kiffin and Jeff Lebby and Kendall Briles and Mike Leach really the cause of this panic now in the SEC over their defensive woes?
Well, I think that the defense in the SEC was a partial product, not an all product, but a partial product of the fact that they were seeing traditional offenses, and they built their defenses to stop traditional offenses, and they were really good. I mean, they were really good. But now they're being spread out, and they're against people that really know what they're doing now. When you're going against the Mike Leach team, those guys are going to know what they're doing. And they're just putting them in space. And some of those players are not the type of guys that function as well in space. And so I think the SEC defenses are going to have to make an adjustment to maybe a smaller type of linebacker.
Yep, they got the Big 12 COVID in them, but they got the teams they came in with Missouri A&M. Not that they had much success. They did early with Johnny Football, and now you got Lane Kiffin with on his staff, Lebby, Clements, Kendall, and Arkansas. It's interesting how that can turn pretty quickly.
They kind of snuck in, too. It's like one of those things that the SEC didn't notice. They just kind of, like, all of a sudden they turn around like, oh, my God, look at all these spread guys.
It might be like this stuff we keep talking about that all of a sudden Nick Saban has it, you know, and you do whatever you want. It just still might get into your system. Hey, Gary, Coach Football, Bob, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I hope that next week we have a game, an opponent that we can discuss with Baylor. You've seen Texas. That's who they would play. And thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Hit it straight. Hit it straight. That number one, that par 4 number one, hit it, kind of a little bit that draw that you hit on number one. And just keep hitting them straight.
We'll try. Y'all come out here and play with us.
Let me tell you something. That's a great guy. That Gary, I said this story, and I didn't even know who he was really at the time. And then now he's a guest on our show because it's got a cult following. People buy Sikkim 365 premium content because of Football Bob 05. And so I'm sitting there on the range at White Bluffs at Lake Whitney with Mike Hicks. I'm going to play golf with him, the former pro at Twin Rivers, now Bear Ridge. And said the name, and he's on the driving range. Next thing you know, he's invited me out there to play. They've done a great job with those courses, but next thing you know, I get to know a guy that understands the football X's and O's.
Hey,
all right,
quick.
baseball.
An NLCS update. In the bottom of the first with no outs and a runner on, the Dodgers in the top of the first scored 11 runs.
1-1.
Oh.
In
you
the
know what
first
I thought?
inning?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
I thought my eyes had gone blurry, and I thought it was a double one.
And they got home runs out of Jock Peterson, Rios, and Maximo Muncy.
There you go.
A grand slam.
Yeah.
So
11-0 Dodgers, and I'm telling you, you talk about a program, a franchise. They haven't won since '88 when they had Hershiser in that famous '88. Isn't that right? Am I right?
Yeah, that they haven't won. They have not won. And they had Hershiser and Lasorda and
Gibson.
Gibson. One of my favorite stories, and I can say it because we're on the internet now.
Beat the dynamic Oakland A's.
Gibson, they told him that you're not available for anything. And he said, can I at least pinch hit? Said, no, you cannot pinch hit. You can't run the bases. And he went to Tommy Lasorda and said, my ass, I can't. And he hit that home run.
Thank God it wasn't.
And Gibson was not like he's not known as the most pleasant dude.
No, he's a bulldog.
He's surly.
Can you imagine if he hits that, it doesn't go out, then he would never have made it to second base.
No.
Then you have to pinch run from him. Who knows? But the fact is, he hit it off Eckersley, who was unhittable that year.
Now, I don't think the Braves are going to score 11 runs, and this may come out nothing. But they already have 2 runners on with no outs.
Oh, it could
so it might be one of those games.
It's going to be an SEC game.
Yeah, there you go.
You can use them now instead of the Big 12. It's funny, though, that the SEC has all these problems right now, giving up yards and points. How do we find out the excuses? With the Big 12, they don't care about defense, and at times maybe they didn't. But it's always interesting how you want to break it down. The problem is it's now infiltrated your conference, and some can do it better than others. A&M, we'll see if Mike Leach can turn his thing around. He kind of jumped on LSU. Their defense was struggling and has from the first 3 games. When we come back for 5:49, we got another break here, Armstrong. So we'll come back and have a couple of the notes, a couple of updates, and a couple of our thoughts about guests tomorrow. One is a dragster. She had a car win a race, I believe it was recently, and her car exploded, and she's still with the shell of her car won the race. She's going to join us tomorrow. Frank did it on Friday. Much more to come. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Bird Culchin Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culchin Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culchin Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new pre-owned Bird Culchin Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership. Online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culchin Ford.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Have you downloaded the Sikkim 365 Radio app? Do it today on the App Store and Google Play.
All right, wrapping up this show. Earlier today, Doak, Field, Olin, Buchanan, John Machota, Football, Bob, also Shane Anderson, Don Hyde from both Connolly and La Vega as a part of our show. Tomorrow we have high school football. Pick up Brad Gable, two former Baylor stars. Brad Gable, the quarterback, and Doak Field, the linebacker, joined us today, and we appreciate their time. Let's see here. Drake Toll was here earlier, right, from the Baylor Lariat, and helping Armstrong. Armstrong's kind of got his own little posse. Got CJ and
he's got
Drake and Jack. Where's he been?
He's quarantining. One of his friends got COVID or something, and he tested negative, but he's quarantining. But I have him doing stuff from home,
Yeah, that's what Deontay's doing, right?
Deontay too. Yeah, so it's been a weird week here or so in Waco. When it comes
going
to
around, man.
Yeah.
It's another wave or whatever. I've never really bought into the first, second, third, whatever.
I don't know if have we left the first one.
Who knows? I mean, honestly, are we being told the truth about anything? I don't know. So I mean, it's continued. That's all we know, and it's going to spike and go down. And so right now, it seems to be in a lot of places it's spiking again. Which then again, if you're having all of these events start back up, even if you're doing 1/10 of the attendance, it's still more people getting together. And clearly with the Oklahoma-Texas game last week, one only needs to look at any picture of fans in the stands, and there were no masks on for the most part.
I almost just did the number one sign of that girl in the stand. I almost just did that. That would have been a disaster.
Yeah, that girl, she went viral, throwing up the middle finger after whatever play it was, or towards the end of the game.
It was the surrender cobra like you're doing right now, and then the girl next to her, and then she threw the bird.
That was good.
Yeah, and so
perfect.
She's now like an Instagram star, right?
Yeah, probably. She's probably on TikTok or something like that.
I saw Nicole Arbach saying, someone had said, well, she was wearing a nice top. And Nicole Arbach, yes, compliment her. I'm trying to get a hold of her. I want to do a story about her.
Nicole Arbach did a great story about the dude at the FSU game that was reading a book with his shirt off.
Oh, that guy was funny, too.
So she's kind of taken to getting some of those stories. Alexis DeJoria is going to be a guest of our show, I believe, tomorrow. She is the daughter of John Paul DeJoria, founder of the Paul Mitchell Hair Care and Patron Tequila.
Okay.
But she's an alpha dog when it comes to the Texas Motorplex owner and funny car driver.
Those are both products that I use quite frequently.
Well, I'm glad we got the sports connection in there, because I was wondering, why are we having Paul Mitchell?
She won the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis in 2014. That's the equivalent of drag racing's Indy 500, Daytona 500. She's a Nitro funny car. It's awesome. And oh, by the way, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I believe, and also the day, in fact. Mama Vans at racing events. She's promoted those as well. We'll have her on tomorrow. I think she's going to be on at 4:20 tomorrow on Sikkim 365 Radio. She had a car, and I don't know where it was, but I've got video from what Elon Werner sent me. She's doing a race. And you know, it only takes like how long? They got 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, right? And she gets about halfway right where the camera is, and her car, the shell of the car just, not the shell, the outer part of the car just explodes. And she continues, I think just because of pure force and physics, down the track and wins her
It's
heat.
good to know that you don't have to have a full automobile to win the race.
Wouldn't that be neat to be able to just drive around and there's all the stuff on the outside?
No.
Why?
No, I don't think that'd be neat.
Why not?
I'm not crazy.
You're just driving there with your jeans and a golf shirt on or whatever, you know?
No.
Got your phone charged and all that?
No.
Why, you wearing nothing or something like that?
No, it's just, I don't think so.
All right, so again, one of the bigger stories today, other than Nick Saban positive, so is Greg Byrne, the AD at Alabama. That's a big deal. But the extra year has now been approved by the NCAA of an extra year of eligibility for anybody that plays at any of the winter sports this season. That includes football, volleyball, basketball, and, of course, there's a lot of who's going to come back and all that. That's now official.
Want to see the entire Sikkim, or I guess the majority of the Sikkim 365 staff's predictions on how many Baylor players who will be eligible for this, who are seniors, how many of them will be returning next year in our very own opinions, then you can check out the latest mailbag, or not mailbag,
Pop quiz.
Pop quiz, yeah, on Sikkim 365. I believe that's under the premium section.
TJ on the text line said, Smokey, you can do all that in a golf cart.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
I don't need to go fast.
And Daniel's the one that asked us about the scholarship limits, and that is something that coaches, it's great. You might have someone coming back. It's also, you got to have some tough conversations with various people that won't be coming back. So that's kind of on the table as well. Now, thanks to our guest today, Brad Gable. Again, thanks to Doak Field as well. Thanks to Olin Buchanan. Thanks to Football Bob, Shane Anderson, and also Don Hyde and John Machota. For Armstrong, thanks to Drake, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke. I'm David Smoke. Thank you for listening and watching whenever you do, however long it might be. And good night on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to Sikkim 365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's the heat of the summer, but the real heat is what you're cooking on the grill, smoker, or in the oven. So Waco Custom Marketplace can be your go-to playmaker for summertime grilling. You can't go eat anywhere else? Be your own chef with custom ordered and cut ribeyes, sirloins, fillets, New York strips with a focus on high-quality beef at a competitive price. Waco Custom Marketplace also has fresh deli cuts with sliced turkey, ham, pepperoni, or corned beef. Waco Custom Marketplace also your home for the freshest seafood in town. Salmon, shrimp, mahi-mahi. Great priced chicken products, whole birds, tenders, chicken breast, and wings. Waco Custom Marketplace with smoked items unique to Waco. House-made bacon, summer sausage, boudin, hot links, and German sausage. Every seasoning for every occasion, grilling, baking, or frying. Your hometown grocery store with canned goods, pasta, fresh baked bread, buns, chips, sauce, condiments to pickles, charcoal and lighter fluid, cold beer and wine, best kolaches in Waco, mouth-watering cinnamon rolls, and here for the community every single day, helping you avoid the long lines in crowded stores, serving quality products to the Waco community. Go online for the weekly value boxes. Family owned and operated Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.